the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
There you are. Good evening and welcome. Good afternoon, in fact. Welcome to Drive Time right here on Talk. Stand by for 3 thrilling hours of news, views and topical debate. I'm your host, Kevin O'Sullivan, and I'll be with you all the way to 7 o'clock. Get involved. Get on the phone and call me on 03444991000, or you can WhatsApp voice note me on the same number, and I promise to play your message out. It is Tuesday, March the 17th. Here's what's coming up. In a little while, I'll be joined by Donald Trump's former security advisor and ex-US ambassador to the United Nations, John Bolton, to get his take on the war in the Middle East and whether the president's strategy to keep the vital Strait of Hormuz oil channel open always relied on asking reluctant European nations, including Britain, for the help that was unlikely to be forthcoming. Is, as Trump and his henchmen insist, the assault on Iran all going according to plan, or is the White House reeling over Tehran's continued resistance and the failure to bring about regime change? 03444991000. In other news, after emails appear to confirm that when he was Gordon Brown's business secretary, Peter Mandelson begged his so-called best pal Jeffrey Epstein for the powerful prescription tranquilizer Xanax, were Britain's interests being represented by a drug-addled cabinet minister? And if so, isn't that rather worrying? 03444991000. Also on today's show, Nut Zero zealot Crazy Ed Miliband tells pubs to serve warm beer to save electricity. The storm over the taxpayer-funded buses that ferry migrants into an Essex town. Alleged hate crimes against Muslims are twice as likely to be prosecuted than similar crimes against Jews. The ludicrous self-harming Hollywood wokery that turns box office flops into Oscar winners, and the BBC stands accused of acting as judge, jury and marker of its own homework, as it is revealed that the state broadcaster rejects an astonishing, listen to this, 99.9% of all viewers' complaints. So don't bother complaining, because the BBC is going to reject your complaint off its own back. We reject your complaint. Why don't they get someone else to have a look at the complaints? Do it independently. Just a thought. 03444991000. All that and so much more. So don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Tuesday afternoon together. And while we wait to go over to Washington to talk to John Bolton, what are your thoughts on the progression of this war? Was it really always Donald Trump's plans in terms of the Strait of Hormuz to just late in the day ask European nations if they'd like to help when they're unlikely to say yes? I mean, what are your thoughts on that? 03444991000. Perhaps we can ask the same question in the fullness of time to my first guest. Very pleased, very proud to welcome to the show Donald Trump's former national security advisor and former ambassador to the United Nations for America, John Bolton. John, thank you for joining us.
Glad to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Well, first of all, now I know that, and I agree with you, I read what you were saying last week, that you have no truck with Trump's timing in terms of the assault on Iran, and that in fact, in your view, and I would agree with you, Iran was a lot closer potentially to having nuclear weapons than many people realise. So the actual assault in itself, I don't think we should have any problems with, and it's certainly a good idea, in my view, to get rid of arguably the most evil, tyrannical, murderous regime on the face of the earth that's responsible for so much of the world's terrorism. So that's all good. But in terms of the prosecution of the war itself, John, do you think it's been properly planned? I refer, of course, as I was just saying, to the Strait of Hormuz. 25 miles of ocean, a vital channel through which 20% of the world's oil is normally shipped, down to a trickle now. Was Donald Trump's plan always, in terms of the Strait of Hormuz, to just start bombing Tehran and then later on say to reluctant nations, including reluctant European nations, including Britain, oh, could you give us a hand to unblock that? Because if that was his plan, that isn't particularly good forward planning, is it?
No, well, that's typical of Trump, too. He and his energy secretary said at the beginning of the war they didn't think that there would be cause to worry about oil prices rising and didn't seem to have the closure of the Strait of Hormuz in mind. Now, the military side said that they always planned for that contingency, and I assume that's right, but there was a much less emphasis on worrying about the strait being closed at the beginning of the war, when it would have been more helpful, more emphasis on getting the ballistic missiles. Those obviously had to be destroyed to remove one of Iran's most important retaliatory capabilities. But closing the strait is a retaliatory capability too. And I just think Trump thought that he could somehow make it through without that happening. I think there was a larger failure. I think Trump failed to make the case to the American people long enough before the war, didn't make the case to Congress, and certainly didn't brief allies, not just in NATO, but in the Gulf itself, in the Far East, Japan, South Korea, Taiwan. And I think that's part of what's causing him trouble now.
And do you feel that the president and his henchmen are surprised, shocked, perhaps reeling that their incredible assault on Iran, apparently they're dropping as many as 650, 680 bombs every single day, has not resulted in any even inkling or any slight sign of regime change? I think that, I mean, a lot of us over here, we've felt that Trump thought that if he kills the Khomeini, the now late Ayatollah, that the regime would fall. But there's no sign of it falling. Do you think that Trump and his boys are surprised by that?
Well, I don't know about Trump. You know, he thinks he changed the regime in Venezuela simply by removing Nicolas Maduro, the president, but the real regime is still there. It's still running Venezuela. He hasn't really changed anything. And if that's what he thought in Venezuela and that he could apply it in Iran, he was badly mistaken. And I think most other people understand that. I do think the regime has suffered very substantial damage, both in terms of loss of personnel and in the attacks on the institutions of state power that threaten us, threaten Israel, threaten the Gulf Arabs, and also repress their own people. And we had some evidence, more evidence of that overnight with the killing of Ali Larijani, the head of their Supreme National Security Council, and Gholam Reza Soleimani, the head of the Besieged militia, which are the thugs that enforce the regime's will against the people in the streets. You know, you lose several hundred of your top leaders, you've been destabilized, not enough. But look, the regime's been in power 47 years. We've been attacking for about 2.5 weeks now. Nobody reasonably could expect the regime would begin to fall. But what we're doing by debilitating these key instruments of the regime's ability to intimidate its neighbors and its own people is showing that the regime can't defend itself. And people in Iran, whether they're in the regime or not, are beginning to look around and say, you know, a regime that can't defend itself can't stay in power long. And they're beginning to think whether, if they're in the regime, they want to go down with the ship or not. This is going to take some time. We need to have patience and persistence here.
John, I think it's no secret that you and Donald Trump are not exactly on each other's Christmas card lists, but do you overarchingly support what America has done with Israel here?
Look, I support the goal of overthrowing the regime. There's no doubt about it. We're never going to have peace and security in the Middle East. The U.S. will never be free of the nuclear and terrorism threat until this regime is replaced. And that, by the way, is why I think it is Europe's war as well as the United States. And I fault Trump for not consulting with NATO before. He didn't have to tell them about the operation in specifics, but should have tried to get more countries on board. He would have failed with some, to be sure, but Britain for sure should have been with us in this war.
But Trump failed to sort of pre-plan that, didn't he? And now with the Strait of Hormuz, it does look as if they hadn't really thought about that. And now he's begging...
Normally,
he's sort of begging for support from these reluctant European nations who are just turning around and basically saying, hey, you've been insulting us for months, we're not going to help.
Yeah, that's a small problem for Trump. You know, normally you try and put your coalition together before the war starts. You don't wait until it's after it's begun to try and get people to sign up. But it is a fact that the eliminating the regime and the threat of nuclear strikes in Europe, which the Iranians have the ballistic missile capability to do, they can't hit the United States yet, and their terrorist capabilities would make the whole world a safer place. And I understand people aren't terribly happy about the way Trump treats them. That's a phenomenon in the United States as well. But the European reaction here, I think, has not been helpful. The Kaja Kallas, the EU foreign policy chief, said this is not Europe's war. Well, it is Europe's war because the outcome here will make a big difference in Europe. And I think you have to be careful with Trump especially saying things like that, because he could well turn around and say, it's not Europe's war. Oh, okay, that's fine. Ukraine's not America's war. You handle it from now on.
Yeah, and with a view to that narrative that's going on, a rather aggressive narrative between the European nations, including Britain and America, how do you see, how damaged, John, do you think the special relationship between the United States and Great Britain has been by all of this?
Well, I don't think it's damaged permanently. I don't think it's. I think, look, this is Trump. I think Trump is an aberration. We've never had a president like him. I hope we never get another one. His relationship with Keir Starmer, I would not describe as great at this point. But fundamentally, the relationship isn't built simply on political leaders. It's built on history and culture and a lot of other things. So after we get over this current unpleasantness, there's every reason to think we can work together again, because our interests and our values are as close as any two countries there are.
Yeah, and a lot of us here in Britain, including me, we feel that we should have helped our old ally and friend America in its hour of need. And yet Keir Starmer has spent the last couple of weeks making a big show of the fact, this is not our war, I'm your leader and I took the decision not to get involved. It seems like a sort of rather kind of ruthless rejection of our oldest friend and ally, the United States of America. I can understand why Donald Trump is annoyed.
Yeah, well, it's based on spurious grounds, too, this idea that somehow international law controls what Britain does. It's really remarkable. You got to give the Chagos Islands to Mauritius because of international law. You can't participate in bringing down the Iranian dictatorship because of international law. Is there anything you can do? It's a responsibility. It really is.
Yeah, well, a lot of us are not happy. We're just about as unhappy with Keir Starmer as Donald Trump is right now. We don't think we've done enough to help our old ally, as I say. Now, John, to go back to what I said at the beginning of our conversation, how near do you think Iran was to having a nuclear weapon?
Well, I don't think Iran itself was that close, although when I've asked that question, I always say it's 72 hours away, because if they send a wire transfer to the Central Bank of North Korea in Pyongyang, they will load one of their nuclear weapons on a Russian cargo plane and ship it immediately to Tehran. This is part of the broader threat that we face from the emerging China-Russia axis, along with their outriders, countries like North Korea, Iran, Belarus, Syria before the Assad regime fell, Venezuela under Maduro, Cuba under the post-Castro regime. This idea that Europe is like a Garden of Eden, immune from all wars everywhere on earth except this business in Ukraine, I think is a very narrow view of things. And that's why having a more global perspective to face the threats that are common to us all is really something that the U.S. needs allies to handle. And if people understood that in Europe, hopefully they would come along.
You said earlier that the relentless bombing and the destruction of military facilities, certainly left the Iranian regime fragile. but it's still very much there at the moment. They are still responding militarily to the assaults on Tehran and other cities there. I mean, do you expect the Ayatollah's regime to fall?
Well, I think it's in the weakest position it's been since it took power in 1979. It's extraordinarily unpopular. The economy is in the tank. And seriously, all across the country, that's what the demonstrations in January and December were all about. And those demonstrations go back to 2018 and 2019. The young people who comprise 2/3 of the population under 30 know they could have a different life. They don't like the regime. The women have been in revolt since the murder of Mahsa Amini, the young Kurdish woman 3 years ago who refused to wear the hijab. The ethnic groups are dissatisfied. This is a time to crack the regime at the top, work with the opposition, give them weapons if they need it, give them communications, give them money to help cause defections from out of the regime, and see the regime fall in on itself. This is a moment, an opportunity we should not pass up.
And in terms of the war itself, how are Americans reacting to it? We've had a poll here in Britain where 70% of the population seem to agree with Keir Starmer that we should not have got involved in America and Israel's war, as it's being styled here. How is MAGA taking this? How are Trump supporters, how are Americans taking it? Because this is, after all, a president who made a huge deal of, you know, America first, no foreign wars, no regime change. He's doing exactly the opposite of what he always promised. How are Americans taking that, particularly his MAGA supporters?
Well, the war does not have majority support, but that in part is because Trump didn't lay the groundwork. You don't announce you're going to war at 2:30 in the morning on Saturday. You take time to prepare people for what's about to happen. And Trump does have a particular problem. The isolationist wing of the Republican Party is outraged by this. Now, they're a small part of the Republican Party, but it goes right up to the vice president. So that is a problem for Trump. Just earlier today, the director of the National Counterterrorism Center, who's one of these isolationists, resigned.
Yeah.
I think that's great news. Maybe Tulsi Gabbard will resign next, and we can get rid of a few more of the isolationists. Trump certainly has surprised and disappointed them, but this is the right thing to do. It's just a demonstration Trump doesn't have a philosophy. He does whatever he does based on whim and impulse and neuron flashes.
And how will this be reflected in the midterms? Is he going to take a shellacking, as people are predicting?
Well, I think that could well have happened in the House of Representatives even before this war. It's a little bit more optimistic in the Senate. But rising prices of gasoline are something that has a lot of Republicans very worried. And of course, the Democrats' knee-jerk reaction is they're against the war to begin with. So I think the politics do get more complicated, which is why I wish Trump had built a better, stronger base for what he's doing in advance. The case for regime change is compelling. It just hasn't been made by the president.
John Bolton, thank you very much for joining us. I hope you come on again. That's former ambassador to the United Nations for America and former Donald Trump National Security Advisor John Bolton, a man at the very top of Washington echelons, giving us the view, if you like, from Sensible America. What are your thoughts about this? Let me know. 03444991000. If we get regime change, that's great. But it doesn't seem to be happening, does it? And the Strait of Hormuz, if we don't unblock that soon, there's going to be a catastrophic effect on the world economy, including ours. Oil prices, petrol prices, everything are going to rocket, you know, absolutely astronomically if we don't reopen the Strait of Hormuz. And Donald Trump is saying he needs Britain's help. He needs the European countries' help. Well, France, Britain, other countries have all said, no, we're not going to help. So the Strait of Hormuz gets closed. Trust me, we are going to feel it really, really badly. Not just in this country, all over the world. Your thoughts? 03444991000. When we come back, we're going to discuss whether or not Peter Mandelson was drug-addled when he was the business secretary of this country. That next. Stay tuned.
Do you think Donald Trump has a plan post-war?
A couple of weeks ago, when he started this off, he made a speech saying help would be on the way for the people. There was going to be regime change.
He appointed Mandelson against advice. We know this to be true. If this was a Conservative Prime Minister, the wider left would be absolutely screaming for his resignation.
Government's announced this afternoon, we're setting up a people's panel to work out exactly how you want us to roll out these digital IDs. We don't want them.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's go straight over to my next guest. We're going to talk about Peter Mandelson. Extraordinary revelations in the papers over the weekend. That amongst his other requests from his old best pal, the paedophile Jeffrey Epstein, he wanted what he called triangles. These were super strong tranquilizers called Xanax. They relax users, apparently. So this was when he was business secretary. So did we have a drug-addled cabinet secretary during Gordon Brown's administration? Let's talk to senior fellow at the New Culture Forum, Philip Kisley. Hi, Philip.
Hi, Kev. It's great to see you.
First up, before we talk about Mandelson, just had John Bolton on, former Donald Trump's former security advisor. He says, there's no secret that him and Donald Trump certainly do not get on, but he has no problem with the actual attack on Iran. He believes they could have been within 72 hours of nuclear armament, so he doesn't have a problem with the actual concept of declaring war on that tyrannical regime. But he says that it doesn't seem to have been planned very well. Regime change hasn't happened. John Bolton feels that it may before too long, because so much of the infrastructure of Iran is now being bombed to smithereens, particularly their military infrastructure. But they remain intact, the regime remains there. But the big problem that John was talking about, and I think a lot of us are worried about, is the Strait of Hormuz, through which 20% of the world's oil used to be shipped until Iran closed it down. 25 miles stretch of sea, 200 million barrels of oil used to go through there every single day. Now, basically nothing. Very soon, that is going to have a catastrophic effect on the world economy, including Britain's. And I mean seriously catastrophic. We won't know what's hit us. Donald Trump, it seems, having started this war, had no plan about the Strait of Hormuz, and his plan now seems to include or involve asking reluctant EU countries and Britain to help unblock it surely in the certain knowledge that that help was going to be unforthcoming. So the Strait of Hormuz seems to be a bit of a mess. What's happening there seems to be unplanned for, and no sign of it getting unblocked anytime soon.
Yeah, it just seems remarkable that this wasn't, the hub of the world's oil production. This wasn't thought through before. I think in terms of the longevity of the conflict, if it drags on, again, that's going to be massively detrimental to Western economies, certainly to us. I don't think that the conflict itself will result in complete regime change. I might be wrong. I'm looking into the future here, holding myself hostage to fortune, but I don't necessarily think that's the case. I think it probably will come from the Iranian people, who will eventually rise up successfully against this very weakened regime. I mean, I was reading over the weekend that the new Ayatollah is in a coma with a leg missing. Sounds like me on a Saturday morning after a heavy Friday night with my
yeah, he's legless.
So this weakened regime is something, and it would be so poetic that the justice would be there if the Iranian people could take them out themselves. So I think the idea of giving aid and allowing them to be able to do this in the longer term is the main thing for the United States and Israel, and hopefully Britain as well. But as you say, it's incredibly worrying and incredibly alarming that this basic stuff, I've said this before on this program, this basic stuff wasn't thought through in this instance by Donald Trump. But having said that, it doesn't come as a massive surprise, does it?
No, that's what John Bolton was saying. I mean, I think you and I basically philosophically are kind of supporters of Trump. Yeah. I mean, I like what he stands for, but as a person, I think we're seeing his shortcomings here, and it's quite clear that America really didn't make any plans about the Strait of Hormuz. Last week, Pete Hegseth, their defense secretary, sort of lost his rag at a news conference when quizzed about this and said, of course we made plans, don't be so ridiculous, of course we did. Where are they? Where are these plans? These plans seem to be, oh, by the way, I know I've been calling you names for 3 weeks, but could you please help us unblock the Strait of Hormuz? Britain, France, Germany, could you help us? It's hardly surprising that they're all saying no. So this is not a good situation. By the way, as we speak, Philip, Donald Trump is in the White House. Fun enough, it's St. Patrick's Day. He's talking to Michael Martin of Ireland. And he has said that Keir Starmer has made, and I quote, a big mistake in his response to US calls for support in the war with Iran. And he suggested Trump suggested that his efforts to strike a good deal on trade with the UK probably wasn't appreciated. So he's making dark threats about tariffs again. He's also making dark threats about NATO. He's very upset with the failure of the European nations to help him out with the Strait of Hormuz. But frankly, he's asked them very late, and what the hell did he ever expect?
Yeah, I think this is Trump posturing, and I find it very difficult to feel sorry for Keir Starmer on the receiving end of this. But I personally don't take it that seriously, because we've seen Trump do this. Trump is all about brinksmanship. He's all about drama. He's all about threats. So, he rarely carries through on this stuff. I mean, what we were talking about before is, it's quite a surprise, actually, that he has gone all out to war with Iran, bearing in mind what he was saying before. This is one of the few times that he really does act rather than just rely on words and bluster and brinksmanship. So I think there is something there, but I don't take the stuff that he's saying about Keir Starmer too seriously, and I don't think many people in this country do either.
I like the way Donald Trump says, I'm very disappointed in Keir Starmer. All the people of Britain, you're disappointed in him. What about us? You want disappointment? Have a look at the British people, Donald. We're mortified by this guy. Let's move on to Peter Mandelson. Extraordinary revelations in the Mail on Sunday a couple of days ago. This emerging from the Epstein files. That among many emails that he was sending to his best pal, the convicted paedophile Jeffrey Epstein, were begging notes asking for what he called triangles. Now, triangles are super strong Xanax tranquilizers, prescription drugs that really relax the users. They're basically good time drugs. So this was, when he was sending these emails, he was business secretary, 2009, 2010. He was business secretary in Gordon Brown's cabinet, making decisions of state. My question is was he drug-addled then? Because if that's true, that is rather concerning, and I think we need to look into this, don't you think?
I think we do need to look into it. I think the police need to look into it because there's clear illegality going on here. I mean, this really takes you back to that time, doesn't it? You know, that Prozac Nation time, all of these kind of synthetic drugs that were going around at that time. And it's alarming to think that he was not only on these drugs, but the nature of the communications he was having with Epstein at that time are really quite repulsive. He was talking about Xanax and talking about this drug, and then he said, you know, but you need to use it on someone.
Yeah, but he said it's all very well, but unless it's good, but unless you need someone to use it on or something like that.
Exactly. So
God knows what he meant by that, but I can imagine.
Well, this is a kind of banter, isn't it? And they're obviously thinking about the young women who were essentially being used as prostitutes there. And I was just thinking, this is no different to a pimp getting a street prostitute drugged up to keep her compliant. It's exactly the same thing. It's just in plusher surroundings. The fact that he felt as though he could joke about that kind of stuff really does reflect the sordid nature of the whole thing. But the really frightening thing to me is the nature of their relationship that goes beyond any kind of friendship I've ever had. There's a need, there's a kind of a reliance on each other, which is just totally bizarre. And it makes you think that yet more stuff is going to come out, because that dynamic between them is, well, first of all, it's about drugs and illegal use of drugs, but it's also about cosmetic surgery as well. It's just completely insane. And the fact that this guy was, well, not only business secretary, he was kind of de facto deputy prime minister.
Exactly
as well.
Right. Exactly.
He was just right at the top of the food chain, making decisions that impacted not only on the country at that time, but in terms of the future and legacy and all of that kind of thing. And as you say, he was off his face on illegal drugs. It's just insane.
Well, potentially, and that's the question we have to ask. But you're right. You see, we know that Jeffrey Epstein, Virginia Giuffre, God rest her soul, one of his girls, obviously, that was allegedly trafficked to Prince Andrew on 3 different continents. Prince Andrew, of course, denies that. But we know that Jeffrey Epstein got her hooked on Xanax. You know, you get them hooked on drugs, you become the supplier of the drugs that you're dependent on. Therefore, you do exactly what that person says. Now, I'm wondering whether that relationship was similar with Mandelson, that Mandelson got hooked on these things and needed them from his best pal, Jeffrey Epstein. But, I mean, so it's very weird. And then there are these emails asking, oh, should I get Botox? Yes, you must get Botox and all this sort of stuff. A very strange sort of almost paternal relationship here. Mandelson seemed to be almost acting like, you know, Epstein was his dad. Here's some drugs. Oh, should I get Botox? Oh yeah, you must get Botox, and so on and so forth.
It's a really weird, incestuous relationship, and reading the emails just kind of blows your mind a little bit, especially when you think about New Labour and you think about Mandelson, you think about Blair and Gordon Brown and what they did to this country, but the tone in which they did it as well, it was moralizing, wasn't it? You know, it was a new kind of politics that, you know, they were calling everybody racist, they were calling everybody, you know, bigots, and Gordon Brown actually did call some poor woman a bigot, didn't he? And yet beneath all of this hypocrisy, you have, as I say, the most sordid stuff going on. And you can't help think about the victims of all of this stuff. So it's almost as if all of this, it's high politics, it's the highest politics, but it's the lowest kind of behavior. And in the middle of all of that stuff, the poor innocent victims, I just really, my heart goes out to all of the people who were, you know, who just were impacted by all of this dreadful behavior. And I think, like you, Kev, I think that the police should be involved for this specifically, and this should be dealt with specifically on all of those counts. So it's about his moral fiber, but it's also about illegality as well.
It could be, yeah, it could be definitely a police case, but I think probably in terms of the nation, more importantly, I think we have a right to know what was our business secretary in 2009 and 2010, as you say, a man who was de facto Deputy Prime Minister to Gordon Brown, making extremely important, crucial decisions of state. Was he on drugs? I think we have a right to know, because if he was, I think that's a source of great concern. So let me know what you think, folks. 03444991000. And thank you very much to Philip Kisley, as always, Senior Fellow at the New Culture Forum. Next up, Ed Miliband, Crazy Ed, our Nut Zero Secretary. His new idea for us all to save money is to drink warm beer. You know, get publicans to stop wasting electricity on keeping your beer or your lager cold. So that's what he's telling us. Warm beer could save the planet, or save us bills, will get us through this Iranian oil crisis. Warm beer. Great, isn't it? We'll talk about that next. Stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Now, Ed Miliband, we talked about him yesterday, didn't we? You know, he thinks that the Iranian war and the effect that's going to have on world oil supplies, which could be catastrophic, that this is not the time to loosen up his hardline approach to net zero. This is the time to double down and to prove that we can exist purely on renewables, on windmill power, on solar farm power. But we can't, can we? But that's what Ed thinks, and now he's coming up with new and imaginative ways that we can save power. One is, well, we can expect possibly even worse speed restrictions. 20 miles an hour might become 15 miles an hour fairly soon. Don't bother to get a car, folks. You'll be able to walk to wherever you're going quicker. But also, he is now saying that pub landlords should save on cooling beer, save electricity by not cooling the beer. So Ed Miliband thinks that our way through the oil crisis is to drink warm beer. That's great, isn't it? Let's talk to the boss of the Hand at Llanelman, probably said that wrong, in Wales, Jonathan Greatorex. Welcome, Jonathan.
Thank you, Kevin. Yeah, not a bad stab at the name at all, I've got to say.
Say it.
It should be Llanelman, but that was
okay.
very good.
Not too bad. Well, look, first of all, overarchingly, as a pub landlord and me as a drinker, let me tell you that I don't like the idea of warm beer, and I bet your customers don't either. So what do you think of Ed's instruction or suggestion that you save electricity by not cooling your beer?
Well, I mean, I don't, quite frankly, there are generations of pub landlords who've clearly have been doing it wrong for years. I mean, we should all be turning, our fridges off and serving warm beer. I mean, I don't know why we didn't think of it earlier. It's completely mad. I mean, we have got one of the most heavily regulated temperature control sectors on the planet. Okay, so nothing says I've had a great night out for warm beer and food poisoning. I mean, insane. So we have to keep products at an absolutely sort of relatively stable temperature. That's the way it works in our business. So switching things down at night not only costs a huge amount of money in the morning to cool everything down again, but if you haven't got someone going in and out of a fridge all night long, and that fridge is switched on, it's not really going to use very much electricity. So I'm really sorry, Ed, you've got this one wrong again.
But the reason he's suggesting that people like you, Jonathan, keep the beer warm, is a way of saving some electricity, saving some power, because he believes that in this crisis, and it's going to get worse almost certainly because of the Strait of Hormuz, that there's going to be a terrible oil shortage around the world in all likelihood. And that what we actually as a nation, Britain, should do, obviously, is to reopen North Sea gas, oil and gas, maybe even think about fracking. We've got plenty of homegrown power, but Ed Miliband, for virtue signalling green reasons, refuses to use it. He's closed down North Sea oil and gas, won't frack. So his idea is, this is how to get through this crisis, warm beer. It's almost as if, isn't it, Jonathan, that these Labourites, this Labour government, if all else fails, pick on the hospitality industry. Why do they hate you guys so much?
I think it's because they just don't like it, because people come and talk about them in hospitality venues. I've never known a more mendacious, hated government. I mean, I've got hardened Labour voters who come into the pub who are just going, oh my God. It's bonkers. The whole thing is, and just when you think, okay, that's the most bonkers scheme I've ever heard, they come up with an even more crazy scheme. So I don't know. I mean, look, I had a look at my electricity bill and I thought, well, how can Mr. Miliband save me some money? So I went through it, and as of December, having been told that our bills weren't going to go up, we're now being charged for a nuclear regulated asset-based levy. Basically, I'm building a nuclear power station. That's costing me £60.44 a month. Sorry, 31.44. I'm doing a climate change levy at £60.44 a month. I'm paying VAT at £473. So that's £564 a month. I'm handing over just for the privilege of paying my electricity bill. So if Mr. Miliband, and that's what, about 6,800 quid a year, if he wants to help businesses, just get rid of the VAT and all those charges.
And to go back to warm beer, now my father, God rest his soul, was of that generation where they liked real ale straight out of the pump, and he thought that ice cold lager or Guinness was an aberration, absolutely disgraceful. But that, I think, is a factor of bygone eras, bygone ages. People like cold beer now, I certainly do. And this, to my mind, when at a stroke, Ed Miliband just said, well, here's what we'll do. We'll get the publicans, get the pub landlords to serve warm beer. It's another indication that these Westminster politicians in their strange little bubble don't understand people at all, do they? People do not like warm beer.
I don't think any of them have ever run a business. I'll go further than that. I don't think any of them have ever had to earn a penny. They've only ever been paid a salary. They've never had to go out and actually make some money. And I think that's the problem. Is that they come up with these bonkers ideas. It's like, Rachel Reeves, what is it now that they're going to give us £3,000 to employ someone who has been out of work? But wouldn't it be cheaper? Because my salary bill's gone up by about £1,000 a month because of the national insurance. Wouldn't it be cheaper just to reduce that so it makes it cheaper for us to employ more people?
Exactly. So the headline on your situation is, Jonathan, that people who come to your lovely pub, The Hand, at, pronounce it?
Llanarmon.
In Wales, can expect cold beer.
They can expect cold beer indeed.
Good, I'm on my way. Jonathan, really good to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time. Jonathan Greatorex there runs a pub in Wales. He's not going to go along with what Ed Miliband said. What do you think? What do you think of this guy, this nut zero secretary? He's just telling us all drink warm beer because that'll get us through the oil shortage crisis. What goes on in his mind? What is that? What happens up in his head? I mean, it's just unbelievable, this guy. Absolute lunatic. As I keep saying, he belongs in a padded cell with a straitjacket on, and I don't say that lightly, I mean it. Now, next up, we're going to talk about the extraordinary situation in the town of Braintree in Essex. Now, near to Braintree, a few miles away, is the Wethersfield former airbase where now, I think it's more than 1,000 migrants live, asylum seekers. Every single day, or most days of the week, great swathes of these migrants have bust in to Braintree to hang around on street corners. I mean, in itself doesn't sound like a great idea, but why are taxpayers paying for that? Why are we paying for free buses to ferry asylum seekers from an airbase into the town of Braintree? Why are we paying for that? And why are they doing it? Because it's not a good idea, is it, to take hundreds of young men into a town when they haven't got much to do? It's not a great idea. What on earth is going on? We'll talk about that next. Stay tuned.
Yeah, we are here to support our people of Palestine, of course, and Iran. It's pretty clear and evident. And the massacre of 165 girls But our blood is considered cheap, but it's not. It's just as equal. Humans are all equal.
What about the bombing of the Ayatollah? What did you think of that?
He was destined for that. That was his destiny, and he fulfilled his dream. He died for the cause of his belief.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Now, up in Essex, there's Wethersfield RAF base. It's now used to house asylum seekers, nearly all young men. In fact, they are all men, young males. There's as many as 1,200 live there, between 800, but there may well be 1,200 there at the moment. Every day, or at least 2 or 3 times a week, hundreds of them are bussed in to nearby Braintree. We pay for the buses. I don't know why. We ferry these people in. They're young men. So they just hang around on street corners. I've spoken to women in Braintree before, and they find it terrifying. So do the kids. But I'd like to know why we're paying to ferry these people in from Wethersfield to a nearby town. Why? If they want to go to the town, why can't they make their way themselves? We give them benefits, pay for it themselves, can't they? And is it a good idea anyway? Let's talk to Sarah White, Women's and Children's Safety Advocate. She's down in Essex. She's a member of Advance UK. Good to have you on the show, Sarah. Well, you've got the gist of what I'm saying. You know what's going on at Wethersfield. It's not very far from you. They're all in this disused RAF base. Perfectly nice facilities, by the way. They've got gym, they've got canteen, they've got leisure facilities. TVs and all that, but every day or 2 or 3 days a week, we, the taxpayer, pay for buses to ferry these guys, hundreds of them, into Braintree. Women and children who live in Braintree find it terrifying because these guys got nothing to do. They just hang around on street corners all day making a nuisance of themselves. But why on earth are we being charged, we taxpayers being charged, to ferry these guys from Wethersfield into Braintree? Why is that our expense?
Well, I can't answer that because anyone in their right mind wouldn't allow this to happen, would they? When, you know, if we was given opportunity to fund the elderly, people that have paid into the system all their lives, if we was allowed to give funding to them to be ferried into local areas to go out for the day, I'm sure we would pick that. However, there's not that option. And we, the taxpayer, who struggle, by the way, a lot of us, to pay our taxes, that money is being used on these undocumented men, and the women and children are rightly to feel unsafe in their communities. And I just wondered, would Keir Starmer be happy with these undocumented men being housed next door to him where his children might be, or opposite schools where his children would go to school? No, he wouldn't. So why is it us, the Joe public, ordinary people, have to come under this persecution? Why do we have to put up with it?
Well, you know about the syndrome, don't you, Sarah, because you've been very much involved in the protests around the Bell Hotel in Epping. Now, that hotel, full of asylum seekers, but I think it's only about 125 or so. But even then, these guys, they're all young men, they're not allowed to work, so they've got nothing to do all day, so you know all about it. They just come out, they just sashay out of these hotels, hang around on street corners, park benches, outside shops, making things uncomfortable at the very least. And women, and particularly mothers in Braintree, have talked of being terrified. Hundreds of these guys being ferried in by taxpayer-funded buses to hang around on street corners, making the residents feel scared. That's just crazy, isn't it?
It is crazy. And at the end of the day, they're putting the wants and needs of undocumented men who are fighting age and they are sexually charged. And let's face it, it is the women and children that are at the biggest risk of these men. We don't know who they are. We don't know where they've come from. They drop their papers. They conveniently get rid of them before they come into the UK. And we talk about the Bell Hotel. We know that this is happening up and down the country. And I've been recently protesting in a place called Newton Abbey, which is in Northern Ireland, where they've got a migrant hotel there, and it is bang opposite a nursery. The men unbolted the tables and chairs and moved them so that they could watch the children playing.
Oh God!
How is that acceptable? So this is affecting the whole of the United Kingdom. And when anyone ever says to me, well, I don't think so, you know, this isn't really happening. No, because you're not the one that's feeling unsafe. You're not the one that has had your daughter attacked. You're not the one who has lost a daughter through murder, being attacked by one of these men. And quite frankly, yes, they may not all be criminals. They may not all be murderers. However, we don't know which ones are and which ones aren't. And at the end of the day, if we can't house our veterans, we've got around 7,000 veterans that are homeless on our streets or across the UK. Why can we not house them, but we can have the funding to house people that have come here? They're fleeing France. They're not fleeing war.
And as a mother and a woman, what's it like? Tell me how you feel when you walk through Epping and there are all these guys, foreign guys, hanging around on street corners. How does that make you feel?
It makes me feel quite sad. I mean, it's feeling vulnerable, but you look at our communities and they're just being ripped apart. Our culture, our history, our heritage, our faith, this is all coming under attack. And I look and I feel scared for my children's future and the future of this great nation. And unfortunately, with current politicians, I can't see it changing. I can't see them putting us first. I can't see them putting the safety and well-being of women and children and men as a priority.
Exactly right. And of course in Epping you had that guy who was done for sexually assaulting 2 of the local women, and you know, mothers are terrified for their kids. Same deal in Braintree. And meanwhile, we the taxpayer, you, me, Sarah, all of us, we pay for these buses to ferry these guys, these foreign guys, in from Wethersfield into Braintree to make the local women and children feel uncomfortable, in fact frightened. I don't know, it just strikes me as utterly insane and very worrying. Sarah, really good to have you on the show again. Come on again soon. Sarah White, Women's and Children's Safety Advocate from Epping in Essex. She's a member of Advance UK, Ben Habib's party. Well, next up, after the 5 o'clock news, I'm going to be joined by former Sun political editor, the excellent Trevor Kavanagh. We're going to run through some of the big stories of the day, particularly the war, and Donald Trump once again saying that Keir Starmer is no Churchill and he's very disappointed with him. As I said, so are we, Donald, so are we. That next, stay tuned.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. You'll be extremely shocked to hear that alleged hate crimes against Muslims in this country are twice as likely to be prosecuted as alleged hate crimes against Jewish people. Now, there's a shocker. Whoever said there was two-tier justice that favours Muslims in this country? What a disgrace that would be. But it's true, isn't it? We'll talk about that in a little while. But first 20 minutes or so of this next 60 sizzling minutes, the second hour of today's drive time, let's talk to the excellent former political editor and current political commentator, great columnist, Trevor Kavanagh. Welcome, Trevor.
Hi, Kevin.
Good to have you on the show. Now, earlier, I think I didn't mention that you were the former political editor of The Sun there, the former political editor of The Sun newspaper. Might as well get that right. But I just had John Bolton on, the former security advisor to Donald Trump, and he agrees. I mean, he's no friend of Donald Trump, as everyone knows, but he's got no problem with the current war. That he thinks is a good idea to try and get rid of the regime in Iran, and that in fact they may have been a lot closer to nuclear armament than people realise. So he's got no problem with the actual war. What he does have a problem with is the prosecution of the war. He feels that perhaps planning was not off the scale, as it were, and that the Strait of Hormuz in particular is in a problem. But as someone who doesn't like Donald Trump, John Bolton did say that he felt that the European nations, and particularly Britain, had let America down and we should have done more to help. What's your feeling on that, Trevor?
Well, it's very difficult to disagree with any of the points that John Bolton made there. I mean, I think that many people would be in support and in favor of this attack on Iran if we knew a little more and if we didn't have someone in charge of the military who, as supreme commander, is all over the shop when it comes to where we are, where we're going, and what the end result is going to be. I mean, you know, there is no doubt that Iran, its first objective, its main objective, and its abiding objective is to destroy Israel, and then, if it can do so, the Western world and its democracy. So, you know, it is exporting terrorism wherever it can get away with it. It's on the streets of Britain. We have not done enough to prevent it. But it is worrying that the war seems to be rambling along, and we thought the war in Ukraine might be over after 6 months or a year, and it's now 4 years. And here we are in spring already worrying about petrol and oil. What are we going to do if this drags on until the winter?
Exactly right. Let's watch Trump. He's been talking in the White House. It's St. Patrick's Day. Michael Martin's been in there with him. This is him having a go at Keir Starmer yet again.
We have a tremendous long-term relationship with the UK. I mean, people would say it's the best. I don't want to get into that, but we've had, it was the longest, the oldest, should be the best. Always was the best until Keir came along, and now, and I like him. He's a nice man. He says everything beautiful. He's a very nice man with a beautiful family. Everything's perfect, but he doesn't produce. And I think it's very inexpensive. I just said, you don't have to send me aircraft carriers. Send me a couple of minesweepers. We don't need your aircraft carriers. But even the aircraft carriers, he would only send them after we essentially won. I mean, he's sending them when there are no planes left, when the missiles are down to 8%.
Yeah, you'd have to sort of say, Trevor, wouldn't you? Well, you know, if your plan for the Strait of Hormuz was to wait until after the fact, when Iran had inevitably blockaded it, and then go to EU nations, woke EU nations and Britain, and ask for help to unblock that Strait of Hormuz, that was not a very good plan because they were always going to be reluctant. And you've been insulting all of us for 3 weeks, Donald. You were never going to get the help that you somehow now desperately need. It doesn't seem to be a sort of immaculate feat of brilliant planning, does it?
No, and I think that it was also foreseeable in terms of any relationship militarily with this country under a Starmer-led Labour government. There is no way that we're going to, A, have the material to send, or the will to send it if we did. I mean, the thing that's worth in remembering here, Kevin, is that this government for the last 2 years has been blaming the previous government, but it is has now been in power for very nearly 2 years. And so this is Starmer's problem, not the former Conservative Party's problem. And he is not living up to the promise that he made at the beginning, that he would look after the interests and the security of this country. We have no armed forces to speak of, no material in terms of warships and tanks and all the weaponry we need if we do come under attack, and no money to spend in order to replenish those stocks. And worst of all, no willpower or no determination to do so, even if we could.
Quite. Now, a lot of Brits will be looking at the events today. Keir Starmer is with Zelensky. He's been making speeches about so crucial that we carry on funding Ukraine in its battle against evil Russia. You know, must keep sending them weapons, must keep sending them billions of pounds. So people go, well, OK, but then along comes Donald Trump trying to take on another evil regime, as in Iran, to get rid of the worst tyrannical sponsor of terrorism on the face of the planet. And this time, Starmer, while you're busy saying, oh, we've got to keep helping Ukraine, got to keep giving them billions of pounds of taxpayers' money, but we are not going to get involved in this war with Donald Trump. We're not involved. It's nothing to do with us. I think that's a rather sort of confusing twin-pronged approach, don't you?
Except that there is a very simple answer to that question, and that is that Israel is not involved in Ukraine. The main objection to us getting involved in this particular conflict is because the Labour Party and its voters will not wear any move which is to support Israel against any enemy whatsoever, no matter how hideous and menacing they may be, not just to Israel, but to us as well.
I understand the geopolitics of it, and I do understand that it is important that we make sure that Ukraine can defend itself against Russia and Putin, because if he succeeds in Ukraine, he will carry on God knows what will happen. So I understand that. But I don't think Keir Starmer and all these MPs that go around with their little Ukraine badges, I don't think they have the faintest idea what the people of Britain are thinking about Ukraine. They're thinking we are struggling. The cost of living crisis is killing us. We are having real trouble getting by. And you seem to assume that we, the people of Britain, will continue to give you unbridled support in you taking billions of pounds of our taxpayers' money and giving it to Kiev. I don't think Keir Starmer understands that people in Britain actually are not doing somersaults about that.
No, I think that the people of Britain probably have considerable sympathy for the people of Ukraine against Russia. But their first duty, and so is the government's duty, is to look after the country and to look after themselves. And what they're feeling right now is that all the prices are going up, food prices and oil prices, gas prices, and the import of almost everything that's made or helped to be made with gas or oil. And those are down to, again, this Labour government, not the previous Tory government. It is this Labour government's Energy Secretary, Mad Ed Miliband, who is refusing point blank to access the untold volumes of gas and oil under the North Sea, which we could use either to sell on the open market or use in our own interests. And he is simply, almost, I think, psychopathically against any move which involves fossil fuels. no matter the fact that we still need them and are importing them, at treble the price that we could produce them for ourselves. And in the meantime, we are virtually openly hostile as a government to our farmers. Our farmers are being driven effectively out of the business of producing food, which we are having to import. Food depends a lot on fuel, and fuel comes from oil. Our industries are being debilitated by the cost of our energy prices due to Mad Ed Miliband's pursuit of green energy at almost literally any price. And in the process, he is bankrupting this country while we shut down our industries and raise taxes and make life difficult for business and pour the money into the welfare state.
Ed Miliband, Crazy Ed, I mean, is becoming a clear and present danger to this nation. I don't know if you saw him touring the TV studios on Sunday, you know, doubling down, saying, now is not the time to drop my green net zero project. Now is the time to double down on it and prove that we can exist without oil and gas from foreign countries. Well, here's the thing, Ed, we can't, or certainly we can't exist without oil and gas. We don't need it from foreign countries. We've got it in the North Sea, but you closed the North Sea oil and gas fields down. You also won't frack. It is just terrifyingly insane that here we are as a nation facing potentially a massive oil shortage because of the Strait of Hormuz. We are sitting on, you know, just years of cheap energy, our own cheap energy. And we have a net zero secretary, an energy secretary, who point blank refuses to even contemplate using that. And it's so crazy that the North Sea oil and gas that he will not exploit for Britain, over on the other side of the North Sea, Norway is exploiting it and is selling that oil and gas to us. I mean,
and it's stocking up on its huge sovereign wealth fund, which we have none of. We are in debt to the tune of well over £1 trillion, and the interest rates on that are more than we spend on defending this country. In fact, twice as much. We have the fuel, as you point out, under the North Sea, which could help to ameliorate all that. But instead, we're exporting the sort of fossil fuel burning that's going on in other countries. So their atmosphere polluting is going on elsewhere. We're exporting that and then importing the oil at triple the price. And we're killing our industry. Our petrochemical industry is not just a profitable enterprise for one business. It's the essence of what we're able to do as a country in terms of making things, the plastics and the hydrocarbons and all the others that we need to produce the weaponry that we will have to find one day to defend ourselves. We can't even produce drones without plastic. And if we don't have the industries to support this, we have to either import them or go without and leave ourselves defenseless.
Did you see him on Sunday touring the studios, which in itself I thought was very significant because he got a lot of power, old Miliband, most popular cabinet minister among Labour members. Keir Starmer's terrified of him. I think he demanded to do the media round on Sunday so he could double down on his net zero mission. And every time one of the interviewers, be it Trevor Phillips, Laura Kuenssberg or any of the others, try to sort of say, well, look, you know, we could bring down energy bills, couldn't we, if we opened up North Sea oil and gas and maybe fracked or something. He just shut them down every single time. No, it's very important that I get this message across. As I was saying yesterday, this guy has the bug-eyed certitude of a ranting lunatic. I mean, I keep saying the guy belongs in a padded cell with a straitjacket on. He really, really does. It is terrifying that a madman like this is in charge of our energy policies. What can we do about it, Trevor?
Well, I do think there is something we can do about it, and it's worked in the past. When Tony Blair started to squeeze motorists with high fuel duty, there were protests on the streets in very large numbers. We need those sort of demonstrations by the public to show that they will not put up with it any longer. We need Gaza-style demonstrations on the streets of our major cities by people who are feeling the pain of what this government is inflicting upon them.
I think that would be a very good idea. Starmer, though, still sticking to his guns, if I could put it that way, and saying, you know, this is not our war, this is not our war. Well, that's not realistic, is it? I mean, I don't know where HMS Dragon is now. It's probably somewhere off the coast of western France, chugging its way towards Cyprus. So I think our input into the entire Middle Eastern war so far is 8 sailors. We've sent 8 sailors there. But just having a prime minister who's boasting about keeping us out of a war, which, by the way, is a lie, because we weren't invited to join the war. We were just asked if America could borrow a couple of our runways, which stupidly Starmer said no before changing his mind. So the damage was done by then. But we have a prime minister that isn't really at the races with all of this. You know, you cannot just say it's not our war. It is, and we need to get real about it, don't we?
Look, America is our greatest ally, is the leader of the Western Alliance. It is the cornerstone these days of international democracy, and if it needs help, then we have to help. But look, we have a prime minister who believes in nothing, has no motives whatsoever apart from walking in and out of Downing Street every day, but no driving force, no philosophy, hasn't read a book on politics, as I understand it, and you know, it is really not just embarrassing, it is utterly humiliating for this country, a once admired power. I mean, I'm old enough to remember and travel and work with Margaret Thatcher as Prime Minister, in the sense of being a journalist, not to work with her. But I was there when she was touring the old Soviet Union to huge crowds of admirers. It was Russia that branded her the Iron Lady. And when we traveled to France, which otherwise used to spit on us in those days, we used to be told, when you finish with Margaret Thatcher, can we have her after you?
Yeah.
And this was an indication of the former sick man of Europe being hauled up onto its feet and able to meet any other country in the eye, including America. All that has gone, not just under this government, but mainly under this government. In 2 years, they've destroyed everything that we once stood for as a great nation.
Oh, I mean, you're so right. That is so depressing. Can I get a last question, Trevor? I just covered this story. You will have read the Mail on Sunday, a couple of days ago, which revealed that the Epstein files suggest that there were begging emails going from Peter Mandelson to his best pal, the convicted paedophile Jeffrey Epstein, in 2009 and 2010 for what he called triangles. Triangles are the very strong tranquilizer drug Xanax, a recreational drug if you use it illegally. And he was business secretary then, de facto Deputy Prime Minister to Gordon Brown. So I think we have the right to ask, were serious decisions of state being made by a drug-addled Deputy Prime Minister then? We need some answers on this, don't we?
Well, I think that Peter Mandelson should hold a press conference, a no-holds-barred press conference, where he will take on the questions you and I and everybody else would like to have the answers to. I mean, these triangle drugs were allegedly used on the victims of Jeffrey Epstein, the young women who were turned into basically sex slaves, and for all of his protestations that because he was gay, he didn't notice, it is almost impossible to imagine that an astute observer like Peter Mandelson, for all his other sins, he's a very bright person, could possibly have not known what was going on. But for him to be getting drugs from Jeffrey Epstein, why not a chemist? Why not someone in Britain? What was Jeffrey Epstein's leverage over Peter Mandelson? It wasn't just helping him to buy a nice new belt at some expensive fashion store. There was something more sinister in this. And in fact, I suspect all the way through Peter Mandelson's life and his story in politics, this has been a thread which has been common to almost everything that he's done. There's always a very rich man in the background somewhere.
Perhaps Gordon Brown might like to put his head above the parapet and say what he thinks about the possibility that his business secretary and his de facto number 2 in 2009 and 2010 might have been drug-addled, might have been on illegal drugs. I wonder if Gordon Brown will, deign to talk to us about that.
I bet he would love to. Absolutely love to. He's absolutely livid with the way that he has now learned Peter Mandelson was operating, while effectively, well, in fact, in all but name, his deputy as Prime Minister.
Right, well, Gordon, if you're watching, you got my number. Come on the show. Trevor, really good to talk to you, as always. Thank you so much for your time. That's Trevor Kavanagh, former Sun political editor, still a columnist on that paper, and one of the wisest minds in Westminster. Next up, we are going to talk about the fact that it seems that twice as many alleged anti-Muslim hate crimes are prosecuted than similar alleged crimes against Jewish people. So once again, more evidence that the legal system, the police, our justice system shows immense favouritism towards Muslims. Two-tier Britain. Two-tier Kears, two-tier Britain. That next, stay tuned.
We are here to support our people of Palestine, of course, and Iran. It's pretty clear and evident. And the massacre of 165 girls. But our blood is considered cheap, but it's not. It's just as equal. Humans are all equal.
What about the bombing of the Ayatollah? What did you think of that?
He was destined for that. That was his destiny, and he fulfilled his dream. He died for the cause of his belief.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
What should we do about Ed Miliband doubling down on his green nut zero insanity, refusing to reopen the oil and gas in the North Sea, refusing to frack, even though the Strait of Hormuz problem in the Iran war could, within a week, could result in the most shocking oil crisis all over the world. The effects will be catastrophic, and we need to use our own resources. We have a nut zero secretary, this maniac, crazy Ed Miliband, who won't let us. We're going to get very poor because of this guy. Should we demonstrate in the street? Should we protest about this man? He even wants you to drink warm beer in your pub to save electricity on cooling down your lager. Unbelievable. 03444991000. Right, let's go over to my next guest. He is the Director of Investigations and Enforcement at the Campaign Against Anti-Semitism, Stephen Silverman. Welcome, Stephen.
Good afternoon, Kevin.
Anti-Jewish hate crimes are half as likely to be prosecuted as those against Muslims. In the 12 months until 2025, 6.7% of alleged offences targeting Muslims resulted in a charge or summons. That's the equivalent of 1 in 15 offences. Meanwhile, only 3.8% of alleged anti-Semitic hate crimes resulted in such action, about 1 in 26 offences. Altogether, in the time period we're talking about, there were 4,478 religious hate crimes reported targeting Muslim victims, compared to 2,873 targeting Jewish victims. I mean, this seems to be, Stephen, more evidence that our justice, our two-tier justice system, is heavily stacked in favour of the Muslim community and not too favourable towards our Jewish community.
There is another statistic that's relevant here. Jews are 10 times more likely than any other faith group to be victims of hate crime. So that's according to Home Office statistics. That's approximately 10.6 Jews in every 1,000. The corresponding figure for the Muslim community is 1.2 in every 1,000, which makes the statistic, the prosecution statistic, even more damning when we've had 2.5 years of unprecedented Jew hatred. But look, you know, if I don't appear particularly surprised by this, it's because I'm not. I've been doing this work with Campaign Against Anti-Semitism now for over 10 years. And one of the very first cases that I dealt with was a particularly repellent individual whose Twitter, as it then was, whose Twitter account was full of the most awful Jew hatred. There was one post in which he said he would be happy if all, I said, I would be happy if all Jews died tomorrow. Would I do it? No. Would I applaud? Yes. Now, the police did a really good job, and the CPS charged him with inciting racial hatred. When it came to court, they discontinued the case, or he even entered a plea. We asked why, and we got a letter back, and I still have that letter today. In it, they said he was only trying to start a debate. And bear in mind, this came from a CPS lawyer. They said there is no evidence that he actually managed to incite any hatred. Now, as any lawyer knows, you don't have to be successful when it comes to incitement. You just have to make the attempt. Now, that told us very, very early on that there was a problem at the CPS, and the next 10 years just reinforced it. I could take up the next half hour of your program going through all the cases that should have been open and shut cases, some of which we've had to privately prosecute in order to secure justice. And that means when the CPS said no, we said yes. We took out a private prosecution, went to court, and the individuals responsible for the particular anti-Semitic hate crimes were found guilty and sentenced. So, you know, we've known this for a very, very long time. The problem was we never had the figures. They were kept secret. Now the evidence is out there. The dirty secret is exposed.
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to show you now, if you'll bear with me, Stephen, one example of where I think blatant anti-Semitism appears to be tolerated by the police and our justice system. This is our friend Pascal Foster Robinson, or is it Robinson Foster? I'm never quite sure. He, otherwise known as Bob Vylan, or one half of the rap duo Bob Vylan. Now, of course, you will remember back in the summer, he caused some controversy by chanting death, death to the IDF at Glastonbury in front of hundreds of thousands of pop fans, and indeed in front, or before, if you like, millions of TV viewers watching it on the BBC. The BBC saw fit to let that go out and saw fit to let him stay on telly for 40 minutes. 6 months it took Avon and Somerset Police to decide that his alleged hate crime did not meet the criminal threshold. Now, this is Bob Villan, Pascal Robinson Foster, 2 days ago at the Al-Quds Iran fan demonstration in central London. Watch this.
Death, death to the IDF. 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 Death, death to the IDF.
Now, Stephen, that got very, very raucous. So quite frightening, that part of the chant. It went on for a couple of minutes and it really reached a crescendo. The question I was asking yesterday is this. Is it against the law? That you know, death to the IDF, that is anti-Semitic. Whatever they say, there's, oh, well, so not all the IDF are Jewish. Well, you know, that is nitpicking, hair-splitting, if you ask me. I think that's anti-Semitic. Even if it's not anti-Semitic, it's a call to violence. It's asking people to kill people. That's against the law. My question is it against the law for somebody to shout before a crowd of thousands, death to the IDF, or is it not against the law? Is it legal or illegal? Because the police, having seen what I just showed you, the Met Police are saying, we are investigating. What are you investigating? It's there. It's on film. Either that's against the law or it's not. What do you think the police have a problem with here? About?
Look, what has happened as a result of Avon and Somerset's police inaction, they have empowered and emboldened this idiot who is now at liberty to tell predominantly the younger generation, millions of them, that they can call for the death of Israeli conscripts. So that's everyone in Israel, and go to bed feeling really good about themselves. And what makes it particularly scandalous is that the police are standing by and allowing it to happen against a backdrop of, as I said earlier, unprecedented Jew hatred in this country, where slurs and anti-Semitic propaganda about Israel have resulted in the deaths of Jews in Australia, in the USA, here, and I've lost track of how many foiled attempts now. It is a complete and utter dereliction of duty of the criminal justice system that this man is allowed to stand there and in his smug, self-satisfied way incite people to hate Israeli Jews or anybody with any link to them, no matter how tenuous.
With a view to what we've been discussing, I think this is one illustration of the fact that our authorities, the justice system, the police here, favour Muslims. I would suggest what we've got going on here, the police at that Al-Quds demo in central London on Sunday, which was frankly an explosion of anti-Semitism, an explosion of Jew hatred. The police once again just stood there and watched, you know, under the guise of saying, well, we've got to keep the peace. You know, if we go in there, it'll cause trouble, and so on and so forth. Like they say every weekend when these pro-Palestine marches calling for jihad and from the river to the sea and so on and so forth snake through our cities. This is another indication that the police are reluctant to upset Muslims, but have no problem basically siding with anti-Semites. That's what they're doing with this guy, Pascal Robinson Foster.
Well, let's not forget that we have seen the police be very prompt in arresting people for holding up signs saying that Hamas are terrorists. So we've polled this, and our polling shows that only 7% of the British Jews coming back to the CPS think the CPS does enough to protect British Jews, but only 1 in 10 British Jews is confident that if they reported an anti-Semitic hate crime, it would be prosecuted. And this is very largely down to police inaction over these issues. And one can only imagine, given that that survey was done towards the end of last year, and the way in which things have deteriorated further since, that level of confidence will be even lower than its current catastrophic level. So both the CPS and the police have a huge amount to answer for here in terms of the way that the British Jewish community is being kept safe, because deterrence is a vital weapon in this fight. And right now, there's precious little of it on show.
And Pascal Robinson Foster should not be allowed to do this. I mean, even if you extract the Israeli Jewish element, this is a guy calling for violence against people, calling for people to be killed. That last time I checked, that's against the law. What on earth are the Met Police talking about? We are investigating. I've just showed you the evidence. Arrest him, eh?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what's taking them so long or what it is they have to investigate. No doubt there will be some sort of legal explanation as to why they can't just dive in and arrest him. But, you know, none of us are holding our breath as far as this is concerned. There is a huge amount of latitude given to what people can say about Jews in public and not get prosecuted for it that is not afforded to other groups.
Exactly right, Stephen. Stephen, always good to talk to you. Thank you for coming on to the show. Stephen Silverman there, Director of Investigations and Enforcement at the Campaign Against Anti-Semitism. Let me know what you think about that. So, all reports of hate crimes against religious groups are twice as likely to be prosecuted if it's Muslims than if it's Jews. Twice as likely. Plus, Pascal Robinson Foster, Bob Villan. And why is he allowed to do this? If I stood on a stage saying, go and kill those people, go and kill them, death to them, death to them. That's not legal. What are the cops doing? We're investigating. Well, you've just seen the evidence. Do something about it, eh? 03444991000. When we come back, well, let's talk about the Oscars. There's an extraordinary list of rules that the judges from the American Academy who decide on who wins the Oscars have to abide by. They have to sort of make sure that there is proper representation of ethnic minorities, Afro-Caribbean, etc., LGBT, and so on and so forth. So there's all these woke rules that they have to abide by, which is why you end up Best Picture, one battle after another. A load of old woke claptrap. Absolutely dreadful film. Complete flop at the box office because it's rubbish. It won Best Picture. We'll talk about that next. Stay tuned.
the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back now. It's not often that I used to be a film critic, so I'm used to watching films that I hate. But as a punter, it's not often that I'll tune into a film or pay for a film or go to the cinema and not see it through to the end. Now, recently, I think I spent about 11 quid at home. I thought, oh, well, let's have a look at this Leo DiCaprio film, one battle after the other. I thought to my wife, I'm sure it's a load of old woke crap, but it's supposed to be a good film, so let's watch it. It was so bafflingly dreadful. After about 10 minutes, I just said, I can't watch any more of it. I mean, I literally switched it off in anger because it was so useless. It's just been named Best Picture, the best picture of the year. It's won that prestigious Oscar, and amid the cast, Best Supporting Actress was Sean Penn, who took part in one baffling scene. I couldn't work out why on earth. It went through the entire scene. We're sexually excited, shall we say, with a big erection sticking through his trousers. I have no idea why. Meanwhile, you got like Leonardo DiCaprio and his mates all going around like breaking illegal immigrants into America. Yeah, boo to Trump and all this. With me is entertainment journalist Ethan Sills. I see this, Ethan, this syndrome as self-harming for Hollywood. Hollywood is so lost now in being woke and giving a sort of anti-Trump right on politically correct films that it's churning out these movies that it pats itself on the back about that are box office disasters. One battle after another has lost an estimated so far $100 million around the world. It's been a disaster. Now, judges from the American Academy at the Oscars are required to take these rules on board. When you're dealing with a lead or a significant supporting actor from underrepresented racial groups, you have to think of them including African American, Black, African or Caribbean descent, East Asian, Hispanic, Indigenous peoples, Middle Eastern, and so on and so forth. Also, in terms of the general cast, at least 30% of all the actors not submitted for Oscar consideration are from at least two underrepresented groups, which may include. So judges are told, try and make sure that these kind of people are in the film that you choose as Best Picture. Women, racial or ethnic groups, LGBTQ+, people with cognitive or physical disabilities and who are deaf or hard of hearing. The main story or subject matter of the film should centre on underrepresented groups. Women, racial or ethnic groups, LGBTQ+, people with cognitive and physical disabilities. So they're telling us who should be in it, what the story should be about, who it should feature in terms of these underrepresented groups. All of these rules have to be obeyed before choosing a Best Picture or indeed a Best Actor or Best Actress. That is insane.
Well, there's four categories that they introduced these diversity rules a few years ago after the whole Oscars so white backlash. So you actually only have to pass two of them in order to be eligible for Best Picture. Which this year only about 100 movies probably weren't eligible, they estimated, after they went through it all. But it's relatively easy to...
How many?
Around 100. I think it was
That's quite a lot, isn't it?
It was a lot, but like some of those movies, you know, Captain America, Brave New World, that wasn't going to ever be eligible for Best Picture in the first place, you know... Chainsaw Man, the movie.
But I mean, cutting out 100 films, just saying you can't even think about them because there's no LGBTQ, there's no ethnic, there's no Afro-Caribbean. That is artistic insanity.
Oh, I think I disagree just because with these diversity requirements, there are a few ways of getting around them.
Should it just be, is it a good film?
I mean, in theory, yes, but you can understand with the...
I can't understand it. No, I can't. I can't understand it. You're saying that this is a brilliant film. Unfortunately, there are no Afro-Caribbean people in it, no LGBTQ plus people, therefore it cannot be considered.
Well, you don't have to...
That is mad.
You don't have to have just casting. Casting's one of the four that you have the option of going through. The other... Two of them, well, one of them is that you just have training opportunities from those underrepresented groups, and one of them is that you have the management behind the scene.
This is crazy.
But when you're counting women as an underrepresented group, that means you can really skirt around these rules quite easily, because you look at some of these departments like hair and makeup and casting and...
But you shouldn't have to skirt around these rules. They shouldn't be there.
We shouldn't have to, but they've made it very easy to do so to get around it. Like, none of the big contenders for Best Picture didn't make it in the end because of these rules. And I think the run through sort of the past Best Picture winners to see which ones would or wouldn't be able to be entered under this, and the majority of them still would be able to. Like, even if you did have an all-white cast, as long as you've got a woman or a gay man making all the costumes.
Or it's about slavery, yeah. But I mean, you know, one battle after another. I mean, you know, personal taste and all that. So maybe some people liked it, although I haven't met anybody who liked it. Absolute gobbledygook garbage, if you ask me. But not only, I mean, it won Best Picture because it dealt, you know, it's like, oh, let's help illegal migrants to break into America. Wouldn't that be fun? Boo to ICE, boo to Donald Trump. So it won Best Picture. Meanwhile, at the box office around the world, so far, it's estimated to have lost $100 million and counting. So it was a commercial disaster. So in other words, the public hated it, and yet the American Academy has decided it's the best picture of the year.
But did they ever really go for those big blockbusters, though? You look in the past, you know, you'd think that Avatar would have won Best Picture by now if the box office was the main consideration.
No, they don't. I agree with that. I agree with they don't necessarily go for the big blockbusters because they're not usually the type of stuff that will win you an Oscar, which in itself is kind of a bit weird. You know, if it's popular with the public, it can't win an Oscar. But I think that One Battle After Another is symptomatic of the self-harming syndrome that is ruining Hollywood. I mean, they're upset. They're chasing wokery. They're chasing political correctness over popularity. They're not making films for the people. They're making films for themselves. They're making films for virtue signalling reasons, and they're going to kill themselves. The Hollywood system will die like this.
Well, I think that I mean, I don't hardly disagree with you, but I think there's a mix of movies that come out every year that I think that the audience has the option of choosing between what they want to go and see. I don't think that the Oscars necessarily represents what the public wants to see or
They should do, though.
In theory.
Oh, perish the thought. Perish the thought that the Oscars should represent what the public want to see. I mean, this is absolute elitism, isn't it?
To an extent, yes. I think that, but I don't know if the Oscars is ever going to represent the people, though. They tried to do that best, most popular movie category a few years ago, and there was such an uproar around that they quickly abandoned it.
Yeah, we can't have popularity, can we? I'll tell you, Ethan, the Hollywood studio system, under threat for various reasons, mainly because of the big streamers, it's killing itself. It's killing itself. While they're, agonising about whether or not there's enough LGBTQ representation in a film and whether or not it's about slavery, Netflix and Amazon Prime and all that lot are making films that people want to watch.
But I think Netflix is, that's been under huge backlash in recent months over how many LGBT and diverse storylines that I've got.
Well, they just do everything, don't they?
Yes. Well, I think the big test for this is going to be now that Paramount and David Ellison, as we've talked about before, now that they've taken charge of Warner Brothers and they're going, released one battle after another, they're sort of going to try and set the standard since David Ellison, founded Skydance, which made Mission Impossible and Top Gun Maverick and all these sort of macho movies, and he's basically told his executive that that's what he wants, is these, not non-woke movies targeting wider audiences.
The money makers.
Yeah, well, that's going to be
Let's make some films that make money because people like them.
When you look at the last Mission Impossible last year, that bombed at the box office, despite getting Tom Cruise to dangle out of a biplane for about 30 minutes.
Maybe it was one Mission Impossible too many.
So I think that's going to be the big test, is if Paramount can pull off what Ellison wants by trying to de-wokeify Hollywood. That'll be see if people still want that.
I'm going to go and see Larry Ellison. I'm going to make a pitch to him. I said, I've got a film for you, Larry. What's it about? It's not about slavery. Right, you got a deal. As simple as that. Ethan Sills, very good to talk to you. Thank you so much. Entertainment journalist, our own entertainment journalist, Ethan Sills there. Let me, well, did you watch the Oscars? I mean, that's another thing that's gone right downhill. It's even going to leave terrestrial telly soon. They're going to put it on YouTube. I tell you, something's happening in Hollywood, in my beloved Hollywood, where I used to live. It's all changing. Let me know what you think. Did anybody see one battle after the other? Anyone have the misfortune to see it? Let me know what you think. 0344 499 1000. Sport next with Sean Custis from The Sun. Stick around.
We are here to support our people of Palestine, of course, and Iran. It's pretty clear and evident. And the massacre of 165 girls. But our blood is considered cheap, but it's not. It's just as equal. Humans are all equal.
What about the bombing of the Ayatollah? What did you think of that?
He was destined for that. That was his destiny, and he fulfilled his dream. He died for the cause of his belief.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. It's going to be brief but fantastic. Sean Custis, head of sport of The Sun, is in the studios. Big games tonight in the Champions League. Sean, of Arsenal Leverkusen, that's on Talk Sport, 7 p.m. until 10 p.m. And Chelsea versus PSG is on Talk Sport 2. Your assessment, Chelsea, how will they get on?
It's a bit of a tall order, isn't it? 5-2 down from the first leg. As we mentioned before, though, Chelsea are the world champions. PSG only the European champions. They played, but the first leg PSG sorted them out. Chelsea coming off the back of defeat at the weekend against Newcastle, so not in the best of shape. Very tall order, that one. You would guess they'll be out.
Yeah.
Man City, home to Real Madrid, they're 3-0 down. As we said yesterday, it's only Mbappe who might play. Bellingham's not fit yet, but they'll be stronger than they were in the first leg when they beat City. Again, that's a tall order, but Pep Guardiola obviously not ruling out the possibility of them winning that. Arsenal home to Leverkusen is the one, very interesting one, poised at 1-1. Arsenal's still chasing the quad, as are City, of course, but it's going to be hard going. you'd have to say for Arsenal, but to get a quad. But tonight they would be expecting to get through.
They look like probably our only chance, don't they?
Well, they're a great chance of going through tonight. I mean, yeah, we've got tall orders tomorrow night as well. So I mean, tomorrow night Newcastle are in the best position of the ones tomorrow night, because they're 1-1 against Barcelona. Eddie Howe's been saying today, actually, because the manager's doing all their pre-match press conferences for tomorrow again, he's been saying that Newcastle are peaking at the right time. So they're 1-1 at the Nou Camp. I have seen Newcastle play twice before at the Nou Camp. We lost both times, which isn't a great omen. Mickey van der Ven of Spurs was talking today, because they play Atletico Madrid tomorrow night. They're 5-2 down as well. Yeah. He was losing his rag because everybody's saying they're not trying very hard, the Spurs players, and particularly Van der Ven's come in for a lot of criticism that he's looking for a move and might be on the way. He doesn't like that very much. He's having a right go back at everybody and basically implying they should have more respect for Spurs players. Again, we'll talk those are tomorrow night. There is Liverpool were talking today about the possibility of overcoming Galatasaray. They're 1-0 down. That's again tomorrow night. But in the background, this thing's been going on about a sporting director called Richard Hughes, who's been on at Liverpool a while. There's a suggestion, there's been a breakdown between him and Arne Slot, and Hughes may be departing for Saudi Arabia as a sporting director there at Al Hilal. So that would be quite unsettling at Liverpool, but all is not well. The fans have been booing Slot. They were recently.
Well, you can't blame that. And Mo Salah, it just seems to be constantly on the bench.
Well, he's not playing great, is he? But he'll start tomorrow night. But the main thing is, as I say, it's about tonight's action, and it's good action. It's just it doesn't feel like there's much jeopardy with the Chelsea and Man City games, but Arsenal there certainly is with that 1-1.
Yeah, I was talking last week, Mike Amstead, about what did we get, the Champions League. We just haven't done well in Britain, have we?
But we've had 6 teams get through. I mean, we can't have it. 6 teams have got through to this stage of the competition. There's a possibility maybe we'll get 2 through to the next round.
I say Newcastle are going to win the Champions League.
Excellent. That's what I like to hear. Top man.
On that bombshell, big thanks to Sean Custers, Head of Sport. Lots of Champions League action, particularly tonight, 7 p.m. on talkSPORT for Arsenal, Leverkusen and Chelsea PSG on talkSPORT 2. Back in a mo with all the big stories. Stick around.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Get your calls in. Let me know what you think about Ed Miliband, the Nut Zero Maniac Secretary's latest smashing plan, brilliant plan to deal with the upcoming oil crisis, because in oil crisis we are likely to suffer very, very soon thanks to the Strait of Hormuz and the Iran war. Well, we can solve it all, apparently, according to Ed Miliband, by not drinking cold beer. Get pubs not to waste electricity on cooling down your lager or your Guinness or your favourite beer. So if you drink it all warm, then we won't have an oil crisis. Thanks very much, Ed. Also, they're talking about yet more speed limit. So, you know, you can only do 20 miles an hour in half the country already. They're going to make it even slower? I mean, you know, 15, 10 miles an hour. I mean, you might as well walk. What do you think about that? 0344 499 1000. And is Keir Starmer wise to keep pretending that he decided not to join the war? He wasn't invited, but is he wise to make such a thing of alienating our old ally and friend, the special relationship buddy, the United States of America? All of that. Let me know what you think. 0344 499 1000. Is Hollywood too woke? Have you seen one battle after the other? Have you had the misfortune to endure that garbage? Is the best picture. I'm, you know, I know it's personal taste, but I've never met anybody who just didn't agree with me that it was the biggest pile of rubbish they've ever seen. Absolute garbage. It's the best picture at the Oscars, the best film of the year. Shame it lost $100 million at the box office because no one liked it. What's going on? 0344 499 1000. Is self-harming woke Hollywood killing itself? I think it is, with all of these stupid woke PC movies that no one wants to see. 0344 499 1000. Now, for the in a little while, by the way, we're going to do a story about the BBC. Turns out, so they mark their own homework. If you complain about, viewers complain about whatever, you know, didn't like that programme, they said this, they did, you know, normal complaints. The BBC, since 2017, it marks its own homework. It judges whether or not your complaint is justified. Guess how many complaints the BBC has rejected about itself? 99.9% of them. Something like 2.3 million complaints since 2017. They have upheld 200. Bloody BBC, get out of here. We'll talk about that in just a little while. But first, let's spend the next 20 minutes or so in the excellent company of the former Deputy Speaker of the House of Commons, former Tory MP for Ribble Valley, Nigel Evans. Welcome, Nigel.
Kevin, absolutely delighted to be with you. And before you even ask me any questions, can I just say one thing about Ed Miliband?
Yes.
I used to be president of the all-party parliamentary beer group in the House of Commons. I know a little bit about pubs. I live next door to a pub in the Ribble Valley. In an emergency, I can be in that pub in 3 seconds. I got to tell you, if it wasn't for the fact that so many Labour MPs are being banned from pubs up and down the country, maybe they would know that suggesting that you should serve lager warm isn't a great idea. I mean, it's absolutely bonkers. Cask ale is already served at normal temperatures, so there isn't a case of drinking that warm. In fact, the Americans used to come to Britain and say, we hate drinking your warm beer. Yeah. It's the temperature we serve it at. But lager, people actually want it cold for a reason, and it's because that's how you drink it. I mean, you'll be suggesting next that ice cream should be served warm.
I wouldn't put it past him, Nigel. I mean, I do think, you know, I don't say this lightly. You know, I'm not a fan of probably any cabinet ministers. I'm not a fan of this government. You know, but I wouldn't go around saying they're all mad. But I do fear for Ed Miliband's safety. I don't know if you saw him on the his sanity, rather. Not his safety, unfortunately, but his sanity. I saw him on the TV round, the media round on Sunday, and as I keep saying, he had the sort of bog-eyed certitude of the ranting lunatic, shutting down any suggestion that reopening the North Sea oil and gas fields might somehow reduce our energy bills in this time of crisis. You know, absolutely not true, not true. Well, yes, it is true. We have a crazed ideologue who believes in these crisis times because of the Strait of Hormuz, the impending oil shortage, which is almost certain. It's going to be catastrophic. He believes this is an opportunity not to relax his hardline net zero policies, but to double down on them. The results of that will be really disastrous for the people of this country. I worry about Ed Miliband, don't you?
Yeah, well, I worry about the people rather than Ed Miliband, to be honest. The people who are at the end of his policies, the people who are really suffering. What are we doing then, Kevin? We're buying oil and gas from Norway? We're drilling from the same fields that we own oil and gas in. I don't agree with everything that Donald Trump says, but drill, baby, drill is what he has said, and it is serving the American public incredibly well. It would serve the British public well if we did exactly the same in the North Sea. Even the balance of payments, maybe we could be an oil and gas exporter like Norway. It's just bonkers to have the policy that we've currently got. But the problem is we have an energy secretary who is obsessed at the altar of net zero. And net zero leads to, in my case, net growth and higher prices for the British public. There's only one person to blame, and that's Ed Miliband, and of course the Prime Minister that put him there.
Yeah, the Keir Starmer seems to be the only person who agrees with Ed Miliband. Ed Miliband is a sort of crazed ideologue who will not brook any criticism of his approach to this, even though his approach to energy just doesn't make any sense. It's incoherent. It has resulted in long-suffering British consumers having to pay, and this is not up for debate, this is a fact, we are paying the highest price the energy bills in the world because of Ed Miliband. Something has to be done, Nigel.
Yeah. And what that means is, of course, that because the industry is now paying massively higher energy bills, never mind the consumer, and the consumer is suffering. Absolutely no two ways about that. Needlessly, in my book, if we'd only drill, baby, drill, and actually got our own oil and gas out of the North Sea, then the on costs to industry means higher prices. And who do we compete with? We compete with the rest of the world, and they're not paying energy prices like we are paying. It's no wonder that unemployment is going up month after month after month, and inflation has increased since this government came to power. I mean, these are this is the real impact of having a government that just simply does not understand. And it's hardly surprising, is it, Kevin? Because the first scandal, I can't remember if it was the winter payments or whether it was the exposure that Lord Ali was kitting out half the cabinet.
It was the clothes first. It was Lord Ali and the clothes first. I mean, then it was the winter fuel allowance. You get lost in all of them, don't you? All the scandals.
People who are on, £145,000 and are receiving freebie goods from one of their mates in the House of Lords. You just simply couldn't make it up. You really couldn't. And that's why they are out of touch. The vast majority of people in the United Kingdom can't outsource their clothes purchases to one of their peers.
I think that you're right about that Ed Miliband in particular, typical of these Westminster bubble people, particularly of our Labour cabinet. They just don't understand ordinary people and real life. Ordinary lager drinkers want their lager cold, and the suggestion, you can have it warm, it'll help us in the oil crisis. That doesn't work, Ed. It just doesn't work. And of course, as you say quite rightly, Nigel, we are buying oil and gas from Norway, who are exploiting, drilling into the North Sea oil and gas fields, which are ours as well, but we refuse to go into them for ecological reasons. But we buy the same energy from Norway. Also, we refuse to frack for ecological virtue signalling green reasons, but we buy fracked energy from America. It is utterly insane. Let's move on to the war in Iran. Donald Trump, furious that Britain and indeed other European nations will not help him unblock the Strait of Hormuz, the 25-mile channel of sea through which 20% of the world's oil is normally shipped, 200 million barrels a day. Not at the moment, though. It's just a trickle. Late in life, he's demanded or requested that we all go and help him clear this up. Keir Starmer won't do it. Macron won't do it. No nations will help him in this endeavour. I think it reveals on his part sort of bad planning, to be honest with you. But do you think that Keir Starmer is right to refuse Donald Trump's requests?
Well, the first request, absolutely. And the first request was, could he use the British air bases both in the United Kingdom and in the Chagos Islands? Yep. You know, it beggars belief, actually, Kevin. Why have we got the Chagos Islands other than the importance of the airbase that's there? And we are intending to spend £35 billion of British taxpayers' money in order to retain an airbase on the Chagos Islands so that the Mauritians will allow this to happen. And yet the reason has got to be that we're going to use it. And then the first mistake that Keir Starmer made on this particular issue was when, and you're quite right to say earlier on, Trump never asked Britain to join the initial raids on Iran. It was Israel and America together. He never asked us. But what he did ask us to do is to
lend us a couple of runways, and we said no, which was a bad mistake.
Bad mistake, Kevin. We said no. And then 2 days later, we said yes. The flip-flop king actually did a flip-flop on saying no to the President of the United States. How weak do you think he looked? And it's no surprise then afterwards that Donald Trump said, well, he's no Churchill, is he? Well, he's not even a Chamberlain, never mind a Churchill. It was pathetic. And quite frankly, I understand exactly why Donald Trump feels badly let down by the United Kingdom and some other countries as well. The fact is that the United States have picked up the heavy lift of the NATO bill for decades. And quite frankly, we've sat back and allowed him to do it. Now Keir says that he's going to increase the amount of spending on defence. Well, let's see some evidence of it, because the reality is when we then wanted to send a ship to Cyprus, we had to wait a week to do it. I was in Dubai 3 days before the initial strike by the United States of America. I was having lunch with some friends on the Palm, and I said, and the CIA have not briefed me, Kevin. This I got from reading the newspapers and reading the media generally. And I said, with all the military assets that America have got in this region, there's not a chance they're not going to strike sooner rather than later. And then on Saturday, they struck. If I could work it out, why couldn't they? Why didn't we have assets in the area already? Because the reaction from Iran was predictable as well. Why? Because they told us that they were going to hit.
Yeah, no, it's just extraordinary. And as I understand it, I think HMS Dragon, the one warship that we finally dispatched to the war zone, or specifically towards Cyprus to help the 100,000 British citizens who live on that island in the Mediterranean. As I understand it, the HMS Dragon is now somewhere off the east coast of France or something, or the west coast of France, rather. And apparently after leaving Portsmouth late in life last Tuesday, 8 days after Starmer deployed it, it spent quite some time, a considerable amount of time, bobbing around in the English Channel, having final preparations made. So the tardiness of HMS Dragon is extraordinary. The lack of preparation generally is astonishing and shocking. And our contribution, by necessity, due to our reduced military force, is just minimal and just not there at the moment. It's humiliating, isn't it?
It's beyond humiliating. There was a time when Britannia ruled the waves, and I think at the end of the proms, I'd be embarrassed if I was there to sing it. We may rule the shipyards because that's where most of our ships are these days. But we certainly don't rule the waves anymore. I'll pay tribute to the RAF, though they're doing an incredible job. A big presence there, and they are shooting down a lot of drones that are coming from Iran. But we have got to do a lot more. We've got to ensure that our armed forces are up to speed. They simply aren't, and it is absolutely embarrassing. And it's simply because we haven't been investing enough in our armed forces. And it's not. I'm not just going to lay the blame at the Starmer government. It has happened in the past under David Cameron when expenditure went down when it should have gone up, and we're now all paying a very heavy price. But at least the good thing that Donald Trump has said to Starmer is now you're going to have to pick up your own bill for your own defence, and that's what we're going to need to do. We need to get behind our armed forces to ensure that they've got the military equipment that they need to be able to protect us and defend us. It's the first thing of any government is to defend our own country and defend our interests, and you can only do that by investing proper money in the defence industry.
I'll tell you, last question, Nigel. Great to have you on the show. Come on again soon. But this is what I was mortified by. So 2 weeks ago, was it, over the weekend when the Iran war first erupted, Iran sent 2 missiles, drone missiles, which attacked our airbase in Cyprus. One of them landed on the runway, one of them missed. So that was the first time that Britain had come under fire from an enemy, a military enemy, since the Falklands War in 1980.
I know what you're going to say, Kevin. I know.
Well, I haven't finished it. 1982, you remember what happened. Within 4 days, Margaret Thatcher had sent a massive task force of 40 ships to the South Atlantic to reclaim the Falklands for Britain. So we were attacked twice on Cyprus. Then, a few days back, there's a military base that we share with the Americans in northern Iraq. Our boys, our soldiers were under intense drone attack, missile attack, again from an enemy, Iran, for a couple of days. They ran out of defence missiles. They were under intense attack. So we have 2 direct massive military attacks on British people, British citizens and British territory. How come, Nigel, we have become a nation that just lets that happen? All of my life, we were a nation that did not let that happen. You screw with us and you're going to know about it. Apparently, under Keir Starmer, you can attack us with impunity. That's a disgrace, isn't it?
It's worse than what you're saying, you know. I should imagine Nelson is spinning in his grave, Margaret Thatcher in hers, a lot of other, Churchill definitely. Do you know, it's worse than you say, because when Cyprus was hit, the first Navy appearances that took place there were from the French and the Greeks.
The French, the Greeks, the Spanish and the Netherlands. The only Navy that hasn't protected British citizens on the island of Cyprus since the war broke out is the British Navy, which is nowhere to be seen. Again, this is a scandal, isn't it?
It is a scandal. I got one of my friends who's in the Navy, and I said to him, "Are you part of this operation?" And he said, "Nigel, we've only got pea shooters." And he literally has, since the time that he's joined the Navy, hasn't been on a proper exercise on a ship at all. And I swear, if you pick up the Ministry of Defence in Whitehall and you shake it, about 1,500 to 2,000 people who are doing desk jobs who should be on ships will fall out of there. It's more than embarrassing. You know, we want to see proper investment in the Navy. And as I said, it's investment in the defence industries, but also it's to ensure that the men and women who serve our country, who defend us, who protect us, get the equipment that they need. And at the moment, they just simply haven't got that. And that's why a lot of people who should be on ships heading towards the region now are sitting behind desks in Whitehall.
It's just terrible, it really is. But great to have you on the show, Nigel. Come on again soon. Thank you very much. Former Deputy Speaker of the House of Commons, former Conservative MP for Ribble Valley, Nigel Evans there. Now, competition time. We are giving you the chance to win 2 hospitality tickets to the British Grand Prix on Sunday, the 5th of July, with full Racing Green trackside experience. This is the ultimate setup for race day. You'll get exclusive grandstand seats at the Loop and Village corners, plus inner track access to watch the drivers arriving at the paddock, and access to the hospitality shuttle bus for easy on-site transport, racing simulators and live music between sessions, all-day street food and an open bar. Listen up to find out how you could be in with a chance to win.
For your chance to win, text TALK to 83338. Text costs £2.50 plus your standard network rate. Or call 0343 418 7260. Lines close 20th of March 2026 at 4 p.m. That's when you need to answer your phone if it rings. 18 plus UK residents only. This is a network promotion. Full T's and C's at talk.tv/win. So for your chance to win, text TALK to 83338 now.
It's the perfect Silverstone race day experience for any F1 fan, so don't miss out. Now, coming up after the break, we're going to cover that story about the BBC rejecting 99.9% of viewers' complaints. That's good, isn't it? That next. Stick around, folks.
We are here to support our people of Palestine, of course, and Iran. It's pretty clear and evident. And the massacre of 165 girls. But our blood is considered cheap, but it's not. It's just as equal. Humans are all equal.
What about the bombing of the Ayatollah? What did you think of that?
He was destined for that. That was his destiny, and he fulfilled his dream. He died for the cause of his belief.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Now, I would contend that lots of us, including certainly me, have lots of reasons to complain about the BBC. Its hopeless output, its biased reporting, its substandard, basically lack of any comedy at all, repeats, too expensive licence fee, 180 quid now, and so on and so forth. Lots of reasons to complain about the BBC, and if you do complain to the BBC, it goes to a department there called the Audience Services Team. In other words, if you complain to the BBC itself decide whether or not your complaint is justified. Now, if they were fair-minded, I suppose that's all right. I've got problems with that. You shouldn't be allowed to mark your own homework like that. But, you know, fair-minded, decent people like the BBC, that'll be okay, won't it? Now, because since 2017, this is unbelievable, since 2017, out of 2.3 million complaints, almost 2.3 million complaints, guess how many complaints the BBC has upheld about itself? Guess how many of the 2.3 million complaints the BBC has decided are justified? 200. 200. That means they are rejecting 99.9% of all viewers' complaints about themselves. This is outrageous. Let's talk to Andrew Allison, head of campaigns at Popular Conservatism. Well, the BBC here, Andrew, has been accused of acting as judge, jury and marker of its own homework after rejecting 99.9% of all complaints since 2017. This is absurd. It's a public broadcaster. They should be doing better than this, shouldn't they?
Well, indeed, they should. I was reminded, actually, of a parable of the unjust judge, or it's the parable of the persistent widow, where a widow complains to this judge that she's not getting justice, and he keeps dismissing her case, but she keeps going back again and again and again. And eventually the judge agrees with her and rules in her favour, not because he actually agrees with her, but because he's sick and tired of her. And I think there's probably a little moral there for when people want to complain about the BBC. I think the only way you're ever going to get any sort of justice from the BBC is by complaining over and over and over again, and then it might actually listen. But none of this really, though, Kevin, actually surprises me, because I know someone, it was a few years ago, who complained to the BBC, and she had a file, a big file full of letters, correspondence, evidence that she was presenting to the BBC, and she still didn't get anywhere with it.
Yeah, well, it doesn't surprise me, because the system is that if you complain, you know, and the BBC gets a lot of complaints, and it's right that it gets a lot of complaints because we have to pay for it. You know, it's a public service broadcaster that we have to, by law, give 180 quid a year for. So it should take its complaints seriously. And if it's going to act like this, then complaints should be taken out of its hands and considered by an independent body, because it is not doing viewers, customers justice here. So the system is if you make a complaint, it will then be considered whether or not it is worth drawing to the attention of a manager or a member of the editorial team about whom you have complained. So since 2017, of the 2,275,387,000 complaints, fewer than 5,000 made it beyond the first hurdle, and then those that did get beyond the first hurdle were whittled down to 200. 200 complaints have been upheld out of nearly 2.3 million complaints. That is just looking after themselves. The BBC are looking after themselves, rejecting 99.9% of all viewers' complaints. That is a disservice to the TV licence fee paying public, isn't it?
Well, it is, but I mean, who's actually doing this initial rejection?
Well, the BBC
how big is the
itself.
team? Yes, I know, but who in the BBC? I mean, it's just supposed to be someone at the lowest possible grade who's just deciding that they're not going to pass this on to the relevant person who it should go to. But I'd just like to know how many people are in this team, and what sort of criteria are they using just to reject all these complaints? Because that should not be happening. And I agree entirely with you that it should be an outside independent body that is deciding the outcome of these complaints, because the BBC clearly cannot mark its homework, can it?
Well, the BBC is like this. It seems to feel that it has the right to judge itself, you know, that we'll all trust the BBC to be fair and reasonable when it comes
Which we don't.
Exactly right. I mean, you know, I'm so sick, aren't you, Andrew, of watching BBC News, watching Laura Kuenssberg and everything, and Laura Kuenssberg will be interviewing someone and saying, some politician say, well, you know, this and this, and the politician go, well, I don't think that is the case actually, and Laura Kuenssberg will go, not just her but all the president, I'm sorry, it is the case. We've had it established by BBC Veritas. In other words, their own fact-checking department is regarded as God Almighty by the BBC. Well, no, you know, you can't keep marking your own homework like this. If you're going to behave like this, the BBC, then we have to take this complaints system out of the state broadcaster's hands, don't we?
Yes, we do. And I think that's just, I mean, 99.9%
It's a joke,
rejection rate. I mean, this is North Korean levels. You know, Kim Jong-un will probably
It really is, isn't it?
Mind you, I suppose in North Korea, you're liable to disappear after you've made a complaint, and that's not the case with the BBC. So I shouldn't stretch that one too far. But, you know, we've discussed BBC bias a lot over the years, Kevin, and the BBC just never seems to accept that it's biased. Even you can present evidence. I mean, look at the question time audiences that are supposed to be independently put together, aren't they? And there's supposed to be a cross-section of political opinions, members of all the different parties and members of none. And yet you can guarantee that the audience seems to be about 90% left-wing every single episode of Question Time. And you can put complaints in against that, but the BBC will just not accept it. And it trots out the same reason all the time, that no, this is done independently of the BBC. There's nothing wrong with that. It's all perfectly fair. And I can just see that is what the BBC is doing for just about every single complaint that it receives. No, we're doing it properly. It's all fair. It's all open and above board. You know, complaint rejected.
Yeah, this is the bit, they're up themselves, aren't they? This is the BBC. We couldn't do anything wrong. Don't be ridiculous. Well, this information, these statistics, these shocking statistics that have emerged, we should thank the Newswatch organisation for, and they've submitted these figures, the 99.9% rejection rate of complaints, to Lisa Nandy as she considers the renewal of the Royal Charter. The Newswatch organisation said that the present complaints architecture cannot convincingly command public confidence in a publicly funded broadcaster sustained by a compulsory licence fee. The low level of successful complaints is cast by the BBC as evidence of editorial robustness. But with the BBC acting as judge and jury, it could also be the result of deliberate or unintended structural filtering. That is typical BBC. Look,
it's a word salad.
Yeah, but listen. Look, this BBC, basically, we've had 2.3 million complaints since 2017, and we're so great that only 200 of them were justified. Oh, yes. Who decided on that? Oh, you did. It's unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah, it is completely unbelievable. Well, I say it's completely unbelievable, but to a certain extent it is believable because it is the BBC and we know exactly what the BBC is like. So yes, let's get it out to an independent organisation, an organisation that's actually going to take the complaints of BBC viewers seriously. Yeah. Because until that happens, then nothing is going to change. And we can have a bit of a laugh and a joke about it, but it really is quite serious. I mean, because we're forced to pay for this.
Every broadcaster, every newspaper, every publication should have a robust complaints department, a robust complaints system whereby consumers know that if they don't like something, it will be treated seriously and dealt with seriously. The BBC, which more than any outlet ought to be serious about its complaints because we have to pay for the BBC by law, clearly does not have a robust complaint system at all. And if they're going to behave like this, let's take the complaint system out of their hands because they are clearly not responsible enough to deal with it properly. Andrew, very good to talk to you as always. Andrew Allison, the head of campaigns at Popular Conservatism. Let me know what you think about that. I've got some voice notes here. We're going to take some calls calls. In a little while, we'll find out what's in the pages of The Sun tomorrow. But first, and then we'll take some calls. So 03444991000. But here's some voice notes. This is Connor on Peter Mandelson and whether or not he might have been drug-addled when he was our business secretary.
Good afternoon, Kevin. This thing with Scandalson, Epstein, and now this drugs. It makes me wonder, why is it just focusing on him? When are we going to start hearing about all the other people that were clearly involved in this activities that have probably got their names in those Epstein files, but have not been named in public yet, and also not been pulled in by the police? Is it going to be that Scandalson and ex-Prince Andrew and maybe even Fergie are going to be the scapegoats so that the other higher-powered people can get away with it? Well, I think that's outrageous, because if anyone was involved, they should all face the music, the whole lot of them.
Well, so far, Connor, good voice note, by the way, it seems that in order to get in trouble because of the Epstein files, you have to be British, because all the Americans are getting off scot-free. But I think it's unfair to say that nobody is suffering because of this, because Mandelson clearly is. Prince Andrew has suffered inordinately. He deserves it, but he has suffered. Sarah Ferguson, Beatrice and Eugenie, the princesses, they're all suffering because they are so prominent in the Epstein files. But you are right, Connor. There's a lot more to come, and there may be a lot more about Peter Mandelson. But as I say, these revelations about him taking or, getting triangles off of Jeffrey Epstein, very strong Xanax tranquilizer drugs used recreationally, illegally. They're prescription drugs, obviously. Was our business secretary. He was de facto Deputy Prime Minister then. Was he off his mind on drugs while making important decisions of state? I think we should be told. Don't you? 03444991000. Next up, Will Barker, Deputy Head of News at The Sun newspaper, will be in the studio to tell you what that fabulous publication has to offer in its pages tomorrow. That next, stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Deputy Head of News at The Sun, Will Barker is in the studio. Welcome, Will. Bad news about the meningitis outbreak in Kent now being rated as the worst in a generation. What's going on down there?
Well, yeah, our health editor, Sam Blanchard's been speaking to DOH this evening, and they've now described it as, it's worst in a generation, a sort of super spreader event. It sort of feels like we've been here a bit with COVID, but this is sort of a different style of outbreak, all centering around this nightclub in Kent in Canterbury. And
Chemistry, it's called. Isn't
Chemistry,
it?
yeah. And the case has now gone up to 15. We've spoken to guys down on the campus today, and they say it's like a ghost town. The pubs will normally be full of St Patrick's Day students, but
is that right? So they're
all
they're
empty.
really
They're all
running
empty.
scared.
Really
And the Health Secretary Wes Streeting, in an unusual demand, diktat, has warned young people against snogging.
Yes, snogging and vaping.
So if you tell young people not to snog or vape, they don't really do anything else, do they? That's all they do.
Well, that's it. That's what I spent my 3 years doing.
I mean, what are the fears of it spreading? They've given out antibiotics and vaccines.
Yeah, I mean,
to more
they're
than
doing what they
5,000.
can. I mean, it seems it's quite hard to kind of work out. I mean, there's been a case that's sort of out in France today. It does seem to be sort of ripping around, but they are. I mean, they're doing the best they can, and they're saying that the case is going to go up.
You've got reporters down there?
Yeah.
Are they wearing masks?
Yeah, they're wearing masks.
See, sometimes journalists can be very, very risky, folks.
But we've got some more cases. I mean, there's an incredible case which we've got in the paper tomorrow, which are definitely worth a read, but very scary.
Yeah, it is scary. We're laughing about it, but it is very serious. So, by the way, there was a special... Don't forget, if you were in the chemistry club in Canterbury, I think it was the 4th, the 5th and the 6th and the 7th.
Well, yeah, they're saying the 5th, 6th, 7th.
5th, 6th, 7th.
Yeah.
Get yourself checked out, get an antibiotic, seriously, get a vaccine. Iran. It's still under attack.
Yeah, last week we talked a lot about this strange ghost Ayatollah who are now taking charge but appeared to be in a coma and in a hospital bed, so wasn't really the best of leaders. And what appeared to be that there were sort of these shadowy hardliners were kind of pulling the strings behind the scenes. And it appears that Israel are claiming that they've taken out one of these guys, the security chief, Larijani.
He's the one who walked through the streets defiantly last week, wasn't he?
Yeah, and he's believed to be the guy that's, as I say, he's actually the hardliner that's kind of at the heart of all this. So they've taken him out, and another guy, Soleimani. So slowly they're kind of chipping away at this administration, and you kind of wonder if it is going to topple soon.
Yeah. But they've got this sort of mosaic defence, haven't they, whereby it's all sort of the whole country's broken up into small units, and they're acting independently, firing out drones left, right and centre. So it's a complicated situation.
It is very much
Meanwhile, Donald Trump has once again, we've been watching it live this afternoon, branded Sir Keir Starmer no Winston Churchill, and has warned the Prime Minister that he made a big mistake in not supporting America in the Iran war.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's desperately trying to get friends to join him on this in the Strait of Hormuz operation, while equally saying he doesn't need NATO and allies. So slightly mixed messages from him. But he's had another pop at Keir this afternoon. Because I mean we have had no response to it really. We had the laughable situation with the dragon sort of slowly chugging its way out
somewhere off the west coast of France, I believe.
Yeah, I think it's reached Gibraltar now. It's got to Gibraltar. Yeah. But we've had an insider tell us that they've got a whole litany of issues on there. That the power keeps going.
Go on.
It's just a complete mess. So they're just.
God.
But they're also complaining it's the wrong sort of waves as well. They can't get through
Britannia
the water.
rules the wrong sort of waves. It's good, isn't it? Meanwhile, Dame Emily Thornberry, former cabinet minister, now of course sort of Labour grandee, she's leading the charge to suggest that the King's visit to America, his state visit, it would be safer to delay that under the circumstances.
He's due, we think, to go out next month, but Trump has also said today in his White House speech that that's still on, despite all these issues that sort of they're knocking about.
Right, let's get back down to the real business, the weather.
Yes.
We're going
Finally some good news amongst all this doom and gloom.
Yeah, we're going to be warmer here than Ibiza.
Yeah.
Spring is here. So it was a very nice day today. How long will the nice weather last, do we think? No doubt about 3 hours.
Yeah, probably. No, I think we might manage to the end of the week. It's going to be 20 degrees tomorrow, a sultry 20 degrees.
Okay.
So
you know what will happen, don't you? It's going to be absolutely lovely until about 7 p.m. on Friday. then it'll start raining for the weekend.
For the weekend, yeah.
Unbelievable. So so what are we going to be? 20 degrees. Yeah, 20 degrees. But also, of course, there's always a downside. Hay fever sufferers are warned of a pollen bomb.
I mean, literally, we are just out of autumn, this sort of long winter that we've had, and so we're all ready to get down to the beer gardens, and they're now warning about pollen and hay fever.
So there's always a downside to everything.
Let's enjoy it.
Just enjoy the sunshine, folks. Good. All right, well, thank you. So get the Sun tomorrow. All those great stories are in the pages of that fine publication, Britain's favourite newspaper. That was Will Bucker, Deputy Head of News at the Sun. Next up, your calls, your WhatsApp voice notes. I'll read a few messages. 03444 499 1000. Let's talk. It's good to talk on Talk.
We are here to support our people of Palestine, of course, and Iran. It's pretty clear and evident. And the massacre of 165 girls. But our blood is considered cheap, but it's not. It's just as equal. Humans are all equal.
What about the bombing of the Ayatollah? What did you think of that?
He was destined for that. That was his destiny, and he fulfilled his dream. He died for the cause of his belief.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Going to go to the phones in just a little while. 03444 499 1000. You know what we're talking about. Obviously, America, the Strait of Hormuz. Should Britain be helping to reopen that vital 25-mile channel that is currently blocked? It's just off the coast of Iran. 20% of the world's oil goes through there. 200 million barrels a day. Now down to nothing. Fairly soon, that is going to have a catastrophic effect on the world economy, including ours. Should we be helping America? 03444 499 1000. And are you going to drink warm beer? Like Ed Miliband, the Net Zero Secretary, says we ought to do to save power. That'll help us, won't it, in the oil crisis? 03444 499 1000. A couple of voice notes before we go to the phones. Here's Pete on Keir Starmer.
Hi, Kev, mate. Pete from Lancashire. Do you know what, mate? There should be a law. There should be laws around governing our country. And if you lie to the electorate to get in, there should be a process, mate. Or if you deemed your policy is damaging the country with, mad head, that there should be a process that involves the electorate. I don't even want to say it's down the pan. I don't believe it is, but they're ruining us, mate. Take care.
I think you're exactly right, Pete. I mean, Keir Starmer's a liar. Many people in this cabinet seem to lie, it seems to me. I've never known it before. Politicians used to be very careful not to lie. They circuitously avoid telling lies, and it would be really painful. But they were careful not to lie. Keir Starmer doesn't give a damn. He just lies. So I agree with Pete. Something has to be done about that. Here is Carl on Crazy Ed Miliband.
Hey Kev, just looking at Ed Miliband. Who puts these people in power? Why has he got the right to dictate all this? Should be chucked out of office, and this government's just an absolute shambles. You're not telling me that he's that detached from reality that he doesn't know how much the cost of things is going up, or is he just that impaled in government with a privileged lifestyle that he just doesn't care? I hate this country at the minute.
I think, Carl, that Ed Miliband is dangerously detached from reality, dangerously detached from, day-to-day life, the things that worry us, the things that concern us, the cost of things. I think he's dangerously detached from that. He thinks it doesn't matter what anything costs as long as we get down to net zero, which we'll never achieve. It's crazy. He's an ideologue. He's a crazed ideologue. And that's the last thing we need right now. We need a sensible pragmatist to deal with the growing, escalating crisis in the Middle East, which could soon cause a catastrophic oil shortage, which is going to cost us all a fortune. There'll be petrol rationing, the price of gas will be extraordinary, and so on and so forth, all thanks to Ed Miliband, because he won't open the North Sea oil and gas fields, and he won't frack. A couple of messages that have been sent to me. This is Suze. Suze says, I'm making a film about Martin Luther King. I've cast Daniel Craig, and I'm popping him in a wheelchair and making him a trans woman. I'm hoping for an Oscar. Suze, you've already won it, 100%, that'll win. This is Amanda. To sum up Ed Miliband, there is nothing more dangerous than someone who justifies their crimes against reality with self-righteous zeal. Yes, mad-eyed certitude. You're so right. It really worrying. This is Tanya in London. My thoughts are, if Mandelson was on drugs with all sorts of disgusting proclivities, these wouldn't stop when Epstein died. What has he been up to since, and what is he still up to? That's what Tanya is asking in London. To be honest with you, he can do what the hell he likes now. He doesn't matter anymore. But in the past, was he on drugs when he was Deputy Prime Minister of this country, in effect, when he was business secretary in 2009 and 2010? Because that's when, according to emails in the Epstein files, he was asking Jeffrey Epstein for triangles, very strong tranquilizer drugs, Xanax. Was he on drugs when he was making important decisions of state? 03444991000. Let's talk to Karen in Bournemouth. Hello, Karen.
Hi, Kev. Good to talk to you.
Okay, always a pleasure. What would you like to say, Karen?
Well, I think Starmer's making the serious mistake that Joe Biden made at the beginning of the Russia invasion, where they gave him all the ammunition but said, oh, but you can't fire it on the Russians. So he should have said, yes, we'll go and help you with the...
Well, we'll give you... you can use our runways, I mean...
Oh, he should have said that instantly, yeah, but...
Do you think we should be helping him now in the Strait of Hormuz? I mean, not that we can, but in theory, do you think we should be helping the Americans more?
I think all of them should, because apart from the physical being there and helping in that sense, it's also good psychologically damaging for the Iranian regime.
Yeah, yes, that's a good point. If they felt that all the European countries, including Britain, had joined America and Israel in the battle against them, that might help the regime to collapse. But of course, we got Keir Starmer and Macron. Oh no, it's not our war. It is our war. You can't really get out of it. It's very worrying that we have a Prime Minister who stuck his head in the sand like an ostrich and is acting as if this has got nothing to do with us. We can't help it. We are involved. Karen, good call. Always good to talk to you. Call me again. Karen in Bournemouth. Let's go to Keith in Finchley in North London. Hello, Keith. What would you like to say?
Yeah, hi, Kevin. Good to speak to you again. Well, for me, there's only one good thing about Keir Starmer, and that is that he supports Arsenal. Apart from that, he's the worst leader this country.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even join you in that respect. That's the main thing I hate about him. Anyway, let's forget about Arsenal, seriously.
The truth is, Kevin, the other day we're hearing about how he wants to help families in their utility bills and their energy bills. Well, get out there and protect the Straits of Hormuz.
It's a good point.
Oil shipping.
It's a good point.
Ridiculous.
I'll tell you, Keith. I would say in a week, certainly if not a week, a fortnight, if this war carries on and the Strait of Hormuz is still blocked, we are going to know about it. People will be up in arms. Prices will be through the roof. Petrol will be astronomical. Rather than just say, oh, we're going to try and help families with the cost of heating oil, 35 million quid, which won't go very far, perhaps we should be helping America unblock the Strait of Hormuz.
Well, precisely. I mean, it's laughable. And in fact, if we helped America and Israel and weren't so gutless, if we actually helped them overthrow this Iranian regime, we would be freeing up enormous natural resources.
That's what I think. I think we should be helping America, but we're not. Keith, I've got to move on, but good luck with Arsenal, and thank you for an excellent call. Call me again, Keith in Finchley. And very lastly, Robert in Hertfordshire. You believe, Robert, I believe, that we should be helping America a lot more.
Yes, we should, and a lot of people are saying that it's not our war. Have a look around the streets. Have a look around the streets. You know, it's already here. It is our duty. Listen, we don't have to like Trump. I mean, Churchill couldn't stand Stalin. They could. Sometimes you've got to bite the bullet, and it is our duty. There's one thing that really winds me up, Kev, and that is, at the beginning of this war, Starmer was looking over his shoulder at the Muslim vote. That's what he was looking at.
Well, he said at the beginning, he does that his whole life.
I guarantee you, if this was against Russia, it would gladly be marching our boys to war because there's no Muslim vote involved.
You're right. The Muslim vote is at the bottom, is behind every decision that Keir Starmer makes, and it's worrying. Robert, I've got to move on because the show's almost over, but thank you for an excellent call. Please call me again. Robert in Hertfordshire. Peter Cardwell is in the studio. Hello, Peter.
Hello, Kevin. Would you rather have bigger breasts or warm beer?
Warm beer, I guess. If you